Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marc Pattinson. I'm one of the thematic experts of the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. And today we have quite a unique experience to share with you because we've co-organized this e-workshop with our friends from the University Industry Innovation Network. And so I'll be co-moderating this afternoon with you with my colleague, Rimante. Do you want to just say hi, Rimante, to everyone?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Rimante Rusaite, and I work at University Industry Innovation Network, and happy to guide you through this event today together with Marc. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now share my screen so you get an idea of what awaits you for the rest of the afternoon. And so hopefully you can see everything. I'll just shift it into full presentation mode. So, supporting us today, we've also got a colleague, Valentine. So if you have any technical questions, you have any issues, don't hesitate to use the chat. We've got a number of interactive tools. We'll have a Slido. We'll have Slido moments during the afternoon. But if you've got questions, especially to our speakers, because we've got a nice cross-section of speakers, don't hesitate to use the chat. We've got 3 formal opportunities for engagement. So at the end of each block of presentation, there'll be a chance for us to engage with the speakers. And at the end, we've got a sort of wrap-up session that enables all the speakers to come back online and to listen to your comments. And also, and this is important, to react to each other. Because one of the ambitions for this workshop was for us at the Interreg Europe community with our university regional policymakers to exchange with the community, not just from the University Innovation Industry Network, but to showcase the Widera programs. And so we're very pleased that we'll have a short presentation from Maria from DG Research and Innovation. So the agenda will have an introduction from Nicolas, the head of unit and projects in the platform from the Interreg Europe Joint Secretariat. And then Arno and myself will give a short insight into some of the Interreg projects that support the theme that we're discussing. Then it's a great pleasure and honor to have the CEO and founder of the UIIN network, Arno Meerman. And then wrapping up this first session, Maria Mecenero, the policy officer from DG Research and Innovation, will give us some insights into the Widera program. We will then have a quick icebreaker, followed by session 1, where we have 3 speakers. Rimante will give us the first one. And then we have a strong Catalan flavor, and that was by accident rather than design. But we'll have Ricard Esparza Masana from Autonomous University of Barcelona, and sharing insights from an Interreg Europe project. And then Jesus Alcober giving us insights from a Widera project. So that will be the first session. Joint question and answers with the speakers. So that's when you can have the first formal opportunity to let's say, engage. Virtual coffee break, optional. The links won't change, just turn your cameras off. And second session where we have another cross-section of Interreg Europe and Antoine Parmentier from the SATT in Alsace and the Interreg Europe project at VIADUCT will share his insights, followed by a Widera project coordinated by Stefania Laneve from the APRE, the Agency for the Promotion of European Research from Italy, and their project is called CATALISI. And then we'll finish with a dive north into mid-Sweden and the Mid-Sweden University, where Karin Ingard will give us insights from this more of a rural perspective on the notion of innovation, technology transfer, and highlighting some of the lessons from the Origin project. And then the last session will be more of the plenary, and all the speakers will join us online. And then we've got the honor of having John Edwards, who's the Secretary-General of the EURASHE, the European Association for Applied Sciences and Higher Education, will give his reaction to some of the speakers. But more importantly, you as the participants and will get a chance to participate and let's say delve into some more details from the speaker and your own perspectives. If you've got presentations you want to share, that we can do that afterwards, and we're happy to have links that we'll be producing. The slides will be obviously shared to all participants, and so the learning journey starts today, but it will be hopefully continuing, and we will make sure that the recording link is also provided for you to exploit, and for those people who couldn't join us today, we'll be able to download it, and all the resources will be made available on the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform and also the UIIN platform. So lots of information. I'm going to now pass over to this wonderful gender balanced team today. Unfortunately, it's Nico, Marc and Arnault will take you through some insights to the Interreg Europe program and how it really is very much lies at the heart of the collaboration between policymakers of a territorial nature and the university and research community. Nico, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah.
Because my computer regularly disconnects, so I hope I won't be cut.
Wait, Nico, we can't hear you. I think you should come to my desk.
I will do so.
Sound. I can, while Nico's walking down the corridor, one of the key messages of this slide is to indicate the breadth of thematic content that we deal with in the Interreg Europe community. As you can see, we have the SMART community, which is the heart of today's discussions: research, innovation, transfer, support to SMEs. The green, that stands for itself, connected, the digital community, and social, citizens and governance issues. And
Marc, I'm back.
You're back.
Yes, this is a charm of the live e-workshop. My computer has strange issues this afternoon, so I'm really sorry for this. But thanks to Valentine, I'm back in the game. It should work. But I know, Marc, you can take over. You know the program so well. I don't know what you said already.
I just said we have 6 thematic areas. You can do the top block.
Great. Now, the reason why I wanted, perhaps, thanks a lot already for all being there. It's a pleasure for me to introduce this e-workshop. We thought it would be interesting for the audience, because maybe not all of you know Interreg Europe, to say a few words about what the program is about, and maybe also, we think it's important. Sometimes people know really well Interreg cross-border, and we want to clarify that Interreg Europe is very different from other forms of Interreg. Marc has started. I will be very brief. We are the only Interreg program that covers not only the European Union, the 27 member states. We have also Norway and Switzerland for many years. And more recently, 1 year ago, we welcomed 5 Balkan countries, as well as Ukraine and Moldova. So you see a very broad geographical scope. We are a straightforward program. Marc already said we cover all topics of regional development. And we also have 2 actions, which is a bit unique in Interreg Europe. We do not only finance projects, but we finance the reason we are all there this afternoon, meaning the policy learning platform. If I go now to the rationale, this is perhaps the most important, is why Interreg Europe exists. As you all know, all local and regional authorities in Europe, they face similar challenges, whether it's related to climate change, research and innovation, the reason why we are there today, or social inclusion. And it means that there's an amazing stock of experiences in Europe within these local and regional authorities. And Interreg Europe is simply there to exploit this experience and not to reinvent the wheel all the time. So we are there to identify good practices or even bad practices, so public intervention on the ground is improved. It's very important to understand this, because it means that this program, and I know already perhaps some faces from universities and research institutes, this program is mainly dedicated to local and regional public authorities. That's the first point. And the second point, we will not do investment, very investment. We are a capacity building program, which makes us, again, very different from cross-border and transnational cooperation. If we go next, Marc, To go a bit deeper in the project, I think you will be mainly interested in the dark green part of this camembert, because we have more than 25% of our projects that are dedicated to smarter Europe, and that's where I think this is a topic of interest today. And in terms of academia and industry collaboration, we have several projects that directly focus on this, and I'm sure Marc and Arno will lead you through this later on this afternoon. Overall, we have 262 projects, as you saw, with a lot of partners, and that's the reason why you have to understand this richness that we have with all these partners. All member states, partner states are represented. It would be very pity for this program to stay at the level of the project, because of course the practitioners work together within each project, but we think we are in a way sitting on a treasure with all these people over Europe working on similar topics, with all these good practices are identified, with all these people and practitioners. So the objective of the platform, represented today by Marc and Arno, is to build on this project input and to make it available to anyone interested in Europe through several services. And we have three kinds of services. I will not develop them too much today. I would say that they go from the lowest intensity of capitalization to the highest intensity of cooperation. So we start, of course, with policy brief, with good practice database, so access to knowledge. Today, we have access to people. So the policy learning platform organizes a certain number of thematic workshops or webinars or events, and we are there for that this afternoon. But I would like to say, and maybe you'll come back on this later on this afternoon, we have a very nice third level of service, which is the expertise, where we really start from the need of the region. So if in your region you are facing a special challenge in relation to academia and industry, how to transform research into commercialization, you can address the Policy Learning platform, this special need. And for instance, through a peer review, we would bring peers from other regions to try to find solution to your local challenge. So this is a very successful service of the platform. We would really recommend you to have a look at this, and do not hesitate to contact us on this. I would just finish by saying a word also to thank UIIN, I hope I pronounce well, for the co-organization of today, and to say that the platform also allows us to increase the synergies with other programs. We are pushed very much to work in synergies. Of course, we work on a day-to-day with DG Regio, because it is our supervising DG, I would say. But we work with also RTD DG, and I thank again the representative from the Commission from being there today. We have organized in the past joint event with DG Grow on cluster, for instance, and more recently also with DG Digit on interoperability. So these are only a few examples of the synergies we create with other important initiatives. This is mainly it from my side. Sorry again for the technical issue. And I have to leave to another meeting now, so I have to leave you anyway. But
no, thank you, Nico, for highlighting.
I wish you a very fruitful exchange and successful meeting this afternoon. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and this last slide, it wasn't an accident. We really do believe in the ability to connect not only the policymakers, but the programs, and try and share good practices, because they don't simply reside in one program or in one particular instrument. So, when UIIN, to be honest, reached out and said, should we do something? And we used the Widera and our community of projects. It was like a 100% no-brainer. And this is how this particular workshop has been constructed. My colleague Arno will now bring to light and bring to life some of the examples that Nico mentioned. And all of the resources you see here are available on the platform, and either Arnaud or Valentine will put links into the chat to enable you to find these resources that are for you and not just for filling the data space. Arnaud, a few words from you, please.
Thanks, Marc, and good afternoon to everyone. Very happy to be here, because this is a topic that we really like at the Policy Learning platform. We have been doing many different activities, doing peer reviews, writing stories, many good practices available. But also, we've been also writing very nice policy briefs on university industry collaboration and research valorization. And I want to highlight that the collaboration that we have with UIIN is very fruitful and very long, because they've been collaborating with us, the policy learning platform, going to peer reviews, writing nice forwards for the policy brief on research valorization, and also Arno participated to add some nice insights in the policy brief on university industry collaboration. So you can see this is a topic that we really like. Just an overview on the policy briefs, and I recommend you to have a look at them, because they are much better than ChatGPT, because they talk about real experience on the ground. It's still much better. Maybe in a few years, ChatGPT will be better. But what we want to say here in this policy brief, just key insights: university industry collaboration is key component of thriving innovation ecosystems. We know there are a lot of asymmetries of motivation to collaborate between the private companies and universities, but they are very important because they achieve critical mass in research activities. They can overcome fragmentation. They bring different perspectives, experience, skills, and knowledge. They are very useful to break down silos. They also foster cross-disciplinary interactions. Very important to encourage skills and knowledge transfer, to promote mutual understanding. And very important, that's also key, there are a lot of risk regarding R&D. So when you bring university industry collaboration together, is also a way to manage risk associated with R&D. Just an overview of some of the policy tools that you can use to promote university industry collaboration. Of course, you can use some financial policy tools, and I think we are going to see some of them. You can also use regulatory policy tools or soft policy tools. So many ways to build a nice policy mix in your regions, involving different policy tools in order to improve university industry collaboration. Valorization, that's another policy brief that we wrote with Marc. Here, when we talk about valorization, is really to have an impact on society. We know that universities are going more and more towards this third mission of universities. It's not only about education or research, but it is also about having an impact on society, and this is key for these workshops that we are discussing. When we talk about valorization, it's about the commercialization of research results, where you can have different activities, disclosure of invention, patenting, sales, licensing, but it's also about promoting entrepreneurship. Here you can do it through spin-offs, startups, and joint ventures as well. It looks complex, but it's very, very nice because I made it with my brain. So here, what it says, it's all about research is going through different knowledge filters. And also, like when you look at the commercialization of research results, and it can go through different pathways. So either you go through entrepreneurship, where you go through the spin-offs, incubators, accelerator, investment, or you go through commercialization of pathways. And here is more about licensing, IPR, and commercialization. What is important to remember here, you have this huge bank of academic research going through different type of filters, and they're going to affect the impacts you're going to have on society and commercialization. So you go through institutional filters, economic filter, commercial filters. And this is why we are here today. We have excellent speakers to reduce those filters, to increase the capacity of academic research to deliver and having an impact on society through research valorization. So participants, I recommend you to ask as many questions and take advantage of our speakers today, because they are excellent and very nice, good practices that will be showcased. So I give you back the floor, Marc.
Thank you very much, Arnaud, we gave you a challenging brief to try and cover these different issues. But now I'd like to welcome Arnaud Meerman, who's the CEO of our co-host in this, the UIIN. Arnaud, would you like to share your screen and share some introductory words with us?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, Mark. As I'm going to pull up my screen, it's also really nice to see so many familiar names on this call, which is going to make the introduction, at least the part to UIN, nice and short and sharp. There we go. There we got my slides. Very excited to be here today to talk about a topic that's very dear to me. I've been in this field around external engagement, the position of higher education institutions in our society for more than 15 years now. I'm going to share a few words about UIN and what we do and what we're about. Before I'm going to also touch upon a few, build on what Arnault was just saying, and work my way towards university industry engagement and share some content with you as well as part of this talk. But just to start us off, and just for those of you who are unaware of what UIN is, we bring together a global community of what we say ambitious organizations, not just universities. We also have a fair share of industries, stakeholders that are a part of UIN. We cover over 30 different countries, most of Europe. For some reason, we don't have a member in France, but I'm sure we'll solve that very soon. But we have 130 plus members across 30 different countries, spanning all across Europe, Latin America, Australia, and Northern America as well. So really a global perspective. And we are very much a partner for external engagement needs for both universities as well as industry. My background is doing research on this topic. That's how I got into this field. And over the last 13 years, I've built UIN from just a concept, an idea, into an organization with more than 20 people based here in Amsterdam, but operating globally. Doing research on anything that has to do with the role of higher education institutions in our society. And our focus is on sharing our research and case studies, which you'll find actually later on in this presentation, as well as going onto our website. You can access our articles, briefs, reports, and other materials. We connect our global community both online at our 4, 5, 6+ online events that we do each month, as well as on site. I'll share at the end some upcoming events that we got over the coming months. We enable stakeholders for professional development. So on a regular basis, we provide training courses. Actually, just yesterday, we finished up a training course here in Amsterdam on how to develop more strategic partnerships. And we had a second course running at the same time around how to build entrepreneurship at universities. So enabling through professional development. And then lastly, for those that need more expertise, we also provide support when it comes to institutional change, either through some of the grant work that we're involved in, but also due to as part of more direct advisory work that we do for universities. As I said, trying to transform the role of higher education institutions in our society. And I just want to pick up on that last word that Arno used as well, around impact, enhancing the impact of these organizations. I would say both locally in their own region, but also operating on a global level. It's easier, our research has shown, it's a lot easier to, proximity plays an important role. It's a lot easier to work with your regional partners, but just as well, really important to, of course, tackle the global challenges that we're facing today. I'm going to use that as a segue also just to maybe anchor the topic of external engagement partnerships. As part of this webinar, we're talking about research and innovation and doing that in collaboration, in partnerships. And maybe just to start off, but why should we even care about this? And I can bring you many examples, hundreds and thousands of examples, small and big, but I think one that we all know very well is the response that we've had towards the COVID vaccines, the lightning fast response to COVID vaccines. Eat that. People had always complained about universities being slow. There was a very quick move there from the research sector, the universities, as well as industry stakeholders, and working together with government to collaboratively, within just a couple of months, tackle that challenge that we were faced with as a society. And that's just one of the many reasons why we should care about external engagement and operating in an environment where universities are no longer operating in silos and more aligned towards pushing out graduates and pushing out papers, but enhancing the impact of their research and doing that in collaboration with external stakeholders. But you might say, okay, that's really nice. It's a nice STEM example, if you like, but what is external engagement exactly? And I also just want to broaden our scope on that one a little bit. And as I said, I mean, I still do research on this topic, but that was how I started out. So I always like to throw in a little definition. And I want to start out with a more traditional view of the university's third mission. I don't like that word, actually, third mission. I think it shouldn't be first, because we say first education, starting out with the University of Bologna, second being research, Humboldt University kind of model, and then we add a mission to the university, which is actually not true. Engagement should run across education and research. If it doesn't run across your education and research at your university, you're doing something wrong. Because how can you stay at the forefront with the materials that you provide within your curriculum and the research that you're doing if you're not engaging externally? But this definition here is very much aligned with technology transfer. It's about transferring knowledge or technology that may help either the company or the academic institute. The source is just down below on this slide. I'm going to challenge that, as I said. I'm going to do that by introducing just a quick matrix here around engagement activities. On our vertical axis, we got number of activities ranging from none to many. And on our horizontal axis, we got low to high in terms of the relative value of activities. I'm just going to plot, this is not an extensive list of activities, but I'm just going to plot, there's no more space on the slide, but I'm just going to plot a number of activities on this matrix just to broaden our understanding of external engagement. And as I said, the different ways that we can engage. So maybe we start out with research meetings, and then that evolves into maybe student internships. Maybe we do some problem solving for an external partner. Testing services where we leverage university infrastructure to provide testing services to external entities. Bespoke teaching, or very popular in Germanic countries, dual study programs that we could establish and run with external stakeholders. When we then evolve our activities and we move along that pathway towards maybe also stronger types of partnerships, we would go towards contract research, sponsored R&D, maybe joint R&D. Industrial PhD is a really important topic that both university and industry are still struggling with very much on how to anchor that in their organizations. How can we make sure that academics can freely move out of the university environment without it hindering their career trajectory, without it hindering their ability to deliver their classes to the students that they've committed to? How can we ensure that that transition can happen? And also the other way around, how can we bring more entrepreneurs? How can we bring more people with an industry perspective into universities? There's some really nice examples being developed all across the globe. Funding initiatives also really help to support this, but there's more work to be done on that front. And then maybe lastly, when it comes to further developing these activities and putting that maybe also to some extent in brick and mortar, so resource sharing, co-location, a really strong way. As I said, proximity plays a key role towards establishing relationships. So co-location really allows us to work together more closely. And now, as I said, I'm going to challenge that definition a little bit. If I just replace transferring, which is very transactional, with exchanging and co-creating, it's not just about knowledge, but it's about people, knowledge, and technology. And it's not just about the company, it's about startups, SMEs, and large enterprises. Not just about but academics and students. It's about society and the government. And after all, it's about networks and setting up innovation supply chains, if you like, not just to further pursue its activities, but resulting into long-term impact. And just in the last few closing minutes of this presentation, I just want to share one last framework that we've developed over the course of the last few years, founded in quantitative data. So it's based on a large quantitative data set, a European study that we did. It was commissioned by the European Commission at the time, with over 4,500 responses from over 68 universities. And from that, we derived different types of engagement models. And I want to present that to you because context matters. Far too often, I see people just trying to mirror or copy case studies that they come across and say, "Oh, that works very well there. Let me do that at my university." And in some cases, you can, but you need to be aware of your both institutional as well as your regional context. So the four typologies I just want to present to you are the research-intensive university, the engaged urban university, the entrepreneurial university, and the civic university. And again, as you'll see, I like matrices. So if I just plot this on the matrix from social engagement being low to high and commercial engagement being low to high, social engagement on the horizontal and commercial engagement on the vertical axis, and you'll see that how these universities differ from each other in terms of their type of engagement, and they also differ in terms of their context. As I said, the slides will be provided to you afterwards. I'm just going to run, for the sake of time, I'll just run through this very quickly. Profile of these institutions. So research intensive, more traditional, large in size, high GDP region, leadership being committed to research excellence, strong academic incentives for research income. They generally undertake joint R&D with industry, more in the licensing and spin-off side of things, more your comprehensive traditional university, if you like. Less formal regional engagement and part of elite international networks. The engaged urban university, being a university that is traditional, all sizes in terms of the size of the organization, in terms of number of students and academics. Leadership recognizes the university's regional role, but in an urban environment. Equal focus on collaboration with both government, society, and industry. Long-term partnerships with local industrial leaders, often situated in capitals. And research and teaching is very strongly linked to urban challenges, for example, around housing or road congestion or health and climate. The entrepreneurial university being a younger, comprehensive or applied sciences university, because they're younger, they're lean and mean, if you like. They can move far quicker. They're smaller in size, higher public sector R&D expenditure, medium GDP per capita, and they have a very strong focus, the strongest focus on industry engagement, and leadership prioritizes external engagement. And then lastly, the civic university, younger institutions, mostly traditional in nature, all different types of sizes we've come across, regions with less favorable social conditions, lower GDP, and these institutions often have a formalized civic mission, and they have a broad definition of impact, moving not just within the spin-offs or patent type of circle, and they have a commitment to social advancement and widening participation. As you've seen, there's far more information on these slides, as well as in our report, which I'll share a link in the chat in just a second. I just wanted to close off with just saying context matters. It's about institutional characteristic, strategic leadership and institutional commitment and culture and incentives from an institutional level. And important for today's webinar, environmental drivers, policy frameworks and funding incentives play a crucial role in terms of the way a university engages externally, their regional economy, and so do global networks for internationalization. If I could just leave you with these last strategic recommendations, if you are a university stakeholder, make engagement a leadership priority. Move away from your paper-based strategies and your nice words on a website, and actually put resources towards external engagement. Design that strategy around impact, reform incentives and reward structures. Celebrate external engagement the same way as you do a new publication or as you do the graduation of your students. And invest in engagement support structures. Have a partnership office. Develop a front door to your university so people actually know how to work with you. And upskill your faculty and professional staff around engagement. As I said, I was going to share a link with you to the white paper that we published around this. In that white paper, you'll also find further references towards the academic publication that underpins all of this work that we have done around reimagining engagement and a new framework for university engagement. Just two last words. The UIIN podcast, if you want to tune into some of these resources that we are sharing, one easy way to tap into that is through our podcast channel, which you'll find on the uin.org/insights. If you want to stay connected to UIIN, of course, you can sign up as a member, but you can also attend one of our future events, including our forum coming up in Dublin on November 13th. If you are getting cold during the November months, please meet us in Perth, Australia at the end of November, or later on in Canada or in the UK. Thank you very much for your time today. I hope you enjoy the rest of this webinar, and I look forward to listening to the other speakers as part of today's panels.
Right. Well, I think you'd hear a loud applause, Arno, if you could hear everybody. It's an excellent introduction. We could probably have a workshop just in responding to some of the issues, and I think you can see why the two organisations have a real interest in working together because of our, in our DNA, sharing knowledge, providing greater access, and I think the contextual dimension fits very well with the policymaker need to, let's say, create impact with the resources. And I'm not going to try and launch the debate now because then that would take away time from the next speakers, especially since the Commission is waiting behind you. But just one last comment. I think the debate that we're having at the European level about the next multi-financial framework, the challenges for the orientation of budgets, the co-funding, points towards a much closer collaboration, depending on which university you're featuring, but you can add the regional, national, European level in creating that context. So thanks for those insights and for sharing the resources that we will put as part of the dissemination pack. But now we want to move on to get some insight to one of the programs that we're showcasing here alongside the Interreg is the particular research instrument or program Widera. So Maria, if you're somewhere on my screen, would you like to share your camera and slides? Thank you. So Maria says, you can see on the slide here.
I think that you can see my slides already.
Yes.
I don't know why it has changed already. I didn't. Okay, and you can hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you for the to the previous speakers for preparing the ground so well, giving us some policy background into the Interreg program and speaking so exhaustively and well about engagement opportunities for university, but especially, I guess, to Nicolas, to comparing a pie chart to a camembert, which is something that I've never heard of and I will use in all of my presentations from now on. I thought it was genius. As you were saying in the introduction, I'm Maria Mecenero. I work at the European Commission and in the Directorate-General for Research Innovation, more specifically in the unit dealing with the European research area, spreading excellence and research careers. So in my short intervention today, I will cover the role of universities and higher education institutions as key actors in the research and innovation ecosystem and as accelerators for Europe's innovation potential and competitiveness. And more specifically, I will try to tackle how universities and higher education institutions are involved in the research and innovation policy framework from the perspective of the Commission and the European Union in general. And I'm sure that when I said European Research Innovation Policy Framework, maybe some of you already thought about a couple of things, a couple of elements. So the first one I would say should be the European research area, and the second one may be the EU funding programs. But in this case, on my side, mainly the European program, Framework Program for Research Innovation, which is Horizon Europe. So why am I saying this? If I can change the slide, good. Because universities and higher education institutions have a crucial role in achieving the European research area, which, if you're not familiar with it, is the ambition of creating a borderless single market for research, innovation, and technology across the European Union, where there is free movement of researchers, knowledge, and innovation. It is what Letten is very much quoted by now, a report called the Fifth Freedom of the European single market. Yes, it is now celebrating its 25th birthday, so its 25th anniversary, because it was launched in the year 2000. And as you can see, here are some policy milestones. A lot has been done in these 25 years. But of course, there is a lot that is left to achieve, and this is why we're keeping our work in deepening and strengthening the European research area. So as you can see here, it was launched in 2000, and you can see it was revamped in 2019. This is a very important year, let's say, and it was launched. The new era was launched in 2021. And since then, we had a couple of European policy agendas, which I'm going to talk about in a second, which are basically the implementation methods of these policy objectives, that is the European research area. Universities and higher educations are key actors and have been key actors in this process in these 25 years, and they have been providing excellence in research and education that is directly feeding into the European research area and contributing to the achievement of this goal. We always say that a true European research area cannot exist without the innovations that are delivered by university. And one maybe number that can really symbolize what I'm saying is that universities are responsible for more than 40% of our research carried out in Europe. So from the DG for research and innovation, you can see why universities are very important to us. And as Arno was saying, also research is the second mission of universities. So they are, together with higher education institutions, very, very important actors for us. But how do they concretely contribute to the European research area? I think that to answer this question, we can break down our answer in a couple of main blocks, looking at the broader policy framework of the European research area. So as I was saying before, the European policy agenda is the main instrument that the European Commission has set up to implement the European research area in periods of 3 years. It sets out a series of policies, structural policies and actions that we aim to achieve under the ERA that cover a wide range of topics that vary from gender equality to research assessment, research infrastructures. As you can see, universities are kind of central to many of these. Yes, and we're going to see it in a couple of minutes. But and so under this agenda, we encourage voluntary collaboration on these topics between the Commission, the member states, associated countries to Horizon Europe, and stakeholders. And I say encouraging because it's a non-binding instrument working on a voluntary basis. Some of you may know that we had a first European policy agenda between 2022 and 2024, and this policy agenda included an action that was called Empower Higher Education Institutions to Develop in Alignment with the European Research Area and in synergy with the European Education Area, which worked on a series of topics and goals aligned with the objectives of Horizon Europe, particularly its acceleration services in support of the institutional transformation of higher education institutions, which you're very familiar with. But in the new policy agenda 2025-2027, which we are starting the implementation of, and it was politically endorsed in May 2025, we have a new structural policy with the universities and higher education institutions at its center, and it's called Improving the Articulation Between Research Innovation and Higher Education within the European Research Area and Unleashing the Potential of European Research Innovation Ecosystems. I hope that the implementation of this action is easier than pronouncing the title, but we are starting to work on this, and I'll cover this in a couple of seconds. What is not on a voluntary basis is the ERA Act, which is a legislative act based on, of course, the European research area, aiming to tackle those enduring issues for which a voluntary mechanism doesn't seem to be sufficient. So this act will propose measures to achieve the so-called fifth freedom, what I was mentioning before. And it will include also a part on research careers and how to ensure sustainable and fair professional path to European researchers and potentially in Europe. So it also includes the narrative that the Commission has launched recently of Choose Europe for researchers and for science. And the third pillar of this framework is our EU framework program for research innovation, which is Horizon Europe, and particularly the framework, the work program called Widera, which has been mentioned already in the presentations before, and that supports the implementation of the ERA action and the policy under the agenda, and also the involved actors in these policies that are including, of course, universities and higher education institutions, and also we're going to cover that in a minute. But going back to the policy agendas that we were mentioning before, this is an overview of the first policy agenda, so the one that is over, let's say. And as you can see, Action 13 under the green and digital transition pillar, these 4 pillars reflect the priorities of the Pact for Research and Innovation, was the empower higher education institutions. So the action explicitly targeted transnational cooperation in research innovation by providing sufficient investment at all levels, so institutionally, within member states, and also at the European level, and promoting collaboration and coordination between these levels. Here is a short description. I should have changed the slide before, but it's okay. And here are summarized the 3 expected outcomes that were is supposed to be achieved under this action, and I think that they were partially achieved, if not completely. This action was implemented, in fact, through the work of a subgroup of experts, and they produced some recommendations. I can also send you the link to the recommendations in the chat afterwards. And these recommendations including that the Commission continues to provide funding for strategic institutional cooperation through competitive research and innovation calls, so under Widera, and to support a wide range of individual universities or networks or higher education institutions across the European research area. For example, to give you an example of what was done under Widera to kind of match these recommendations, one of the forms that this took is the European Excellence Initiative. You can see here in the slide a bit a summary of this action, with the policy objective of supporting the transformation of higher education sector and their surrounding ecosystems, and through consortia including at least 3 independent legal entities in 3 different EU member states or Horizon Europe associating countries, at least one of which established in a widening country. If you don't know what a widening country is, you're not going to get it from the name because it's not very intuitive. They are those countries that are a bit kind of lagging behind in terms of investment in research innovation, and so as you can see here, also in this call under Widera, there was this widening aspect of allowing, kind of encouraging widening countries to team up with other countries in the European Union and kind of catch up in their investment. For example, this European Excellence Initiative was a call in also the work program, the last work program that we have seen under Widera 2025, with a higher budget comparing to previous calls. 2023, 4, etc. So concerning the new policy agenda, which is what we're doing now, we continue putting universities and higher education institutions at the center of our action with a structural policy that it's what is improving the articulation between research innovation and higher education. I see that one of the speakers that we have here and is gonna talk later today is John, and John is one of the stakeholders that is mostly involved in this action, and we're working together to implement it. Indeed, we had the kickoff meeting of the actions with member states and stakeholders just a week ago. And different to what was done for Action 13, we are going to take a more flexible approach, so not a subgroup, but we're going to organize 4 thematic workshops until 2027 throughout the implementation time, connected to the 4 outcomes that you can see here. And so basically out of these 4 outcomes, we're trying to find a topic that would make the most sense for the group and work on this. And after this, each of the workshops, our idea would be to have some recommendations, an outcome, something, a toolbox to kind of be disseminated to foster and encourage the articulation between research innovation and higher education. And finally, I would like to give you an update on the last pillar of the ERA policy framework that we have mentioned before, which is the Widera work program. So the Widera work program, and that has 2 components. One is the widening component, and the other one is strengthening the ERA by reforming and enhancing the European research innovation system. So especially under the second component, aims to support the objectives that are set out under the policy agenda that we have seen before. Its call and its actions are designed to contribute to the implementation of the 4 areas under the Pact for RNI. So also ensuring that the priorities that have been expressed also by the member state and have been agreed by member states are tackled also in our main funding instruments. And these 4 topics define our priority areas for joint action, and they set ambitions for investment reforms, and they introduce a simplified coordination and monitoring. This pact also outlines common values and principles to guide research innovation in the European Union and in the collaboration with the rest of the world. So it's, let's say, our North Star when we are defining our priorities and how to tackle these priorities. So this is how, let's say, the architecture, the activities, the impact, and the policy areas for the work program 2025, 2020, 2026, 2027 are that they look now. This is indicative because the work program hasn't been adopted, but you can already have a look at the draft in the comitology registry. I can link it to you in the chat after my presentation, because this is part of the new way that we're trying to draft the work programs under Horizon Europe, encouraging transparency with stakeholders, etc. So you can see drafts that are not yet adopted. And I think that the indicative adoption is December, but I think it's in the next slide, the specific date, so I'm not going to be mistaken. But especially by looking at the policy area here, you can see that there is a correspondence between the policy agenda and the policy areas that are tackled. So then you can, maybe we can... Yes, I mean, here you can see more or less where universities and higher education institutions can play a role. But if you look at the topics, really, universities and higher education institutions can be central actors in all of them, because from open science to gender equality to knowledge valorization, as we saw before, research careers, of course, even citizen and societal engagement. All of these are topics in which universities and higher education institutions are crucial because they are really working across all of the policy areas that we're tackling here. And in the calls and topics here, we can see, okay, these are the indicative opening dates of these calls. So for 2026 is 10th of December 2025, and for 2027, the 8th of December 2026. So you can see a bit what are the calls that we are aiming at having under the work program 2026-2027. And again, there are a lot of calls that mention university, for example, under strengthening ecosystem for open, ethical, and sustainable European research area. A collaboration with university or research networks to enrich ethics-related curricula is it's deemed as desirable. They are really either mentioned as partners that should be involved in the application, or partners that can contribute. So it is really the involvement of universities in competitive call is fundamental. If you want to know more about all of these, as for 2025, 2026 especially, there will be an info day in our research innovation platform on the 11th of December, where all of these are going to be presented, whereas the info day for widening, I'm sorry for not having it in the slides, but it's on the 22nd of January. So we're kind of splitting the two parts of the Widera work program, the ERA info day in December and the widening info day in January. And then just to conclude my presentation, I would like to give you some numbers and data on kind of representing how much the European Commission under Horizon Europe has already funded universities, because it is not clear, I think, to everyone how much really the universities are supported under the Research Innovation Framework Program, starting from Horizon 2020, then to Horizon Europe, and I'm sure it will be the same also in the future. So as you can see, higher education institutions were included in 36% of the over 1 million eligible proposals under Horizon 2020. And they had the highest share of EU contributions with 26.8 billion, which is an impressive number, I would say. And under Horizon Europe, you can see that between 2021 and 2023, I will have to extract at some point more up-to-date data, which are not yet available, but I will for the next time. They received, again, the largest contribution with 10.5 billion. So this brings us to basically a little bit less than 30 billion euros since the start of Horizon 2020, which is really an impressive number, and kind of, I would say, symbolizes how much really the European Commission is supporting universities and higher education institutions through its framework programs. So with this, I conclude my presentation. I included some links here, but after I sent the slides, I kind of realized that some of them are missing, like the ones that I was talking about before. So maybe I'll put it in the slide, or I can also send an updated deck, maybe, or you let me know what is best. So
yeah,
yes,
well,
but thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thanks. Whatever's easy for you. If you want to update the slides, we will share them with the collect links, or you can put them in the chat, but we're happy to adapt for you. But I think you not only finished with some very powerful numbers, and I think the university in its wider sense community is a great beneficiary of Horizon Europe, but I think you also indicated in several of your slides the notion of ecosystems, and same with Arnault, sort of the notion of how the policymaker, the territorial dimension, because universities impact, it's not only on the research excellence, it's also in terms of the local exchanges they can have with the business environment and the regional capacity to create value in the spin-off. So there's a whole value chain. What I'm going to suggest now, that if there are people who've got questions, and I'm not sure whether Maria and Arno, you can stay to the end, because there's, if you can, excellent. If you want to see any questions in the chat, people can ask you, and you can maybe answer using the chat. We were going to have a little icebreaker, but I think you've done the icebreaking, so I'm going to save some time and catch up on my agenda. And I'm going to ask the next panelist to start now. So, Rimante, you're going to give us some insights and really translate some of the material that Maria was presenting in terms of the policy framework into the reality of a project that has the nice name for us, Accelerate Future HEIs. So, Rimante, are you around? Will you share your screen?
Yes, I am around. I will
Good.
share my screen.
So you have 10 minutes, and then we'll deal with all the three presentations, and then we'll have a little chat with everybody. So off you go, and we'll give you a little heads up 2 minutes before the end.
Okay. You see the correct screen, right?
At the moment, we're just looking at you and your blue-green screen.
Oh, okay. Still nothing?
Still nothing. We had a trial run and everything worked perfectly before. Then Nico's computer went. Now the sharing. But if you want, Valentine can share for you. No, it's coming now. It's coming.
Oh, it's coming.
Yep.
Okay.
All good. Full screen, and you're all.
Okay. You see the correct screen now, right?
We got the presenter mode.
We see the presenter mode.
Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Here we go. Thank you, Marc, for introduction. So yes, Arno mentioned earlier, one of our key activities and passions is to support institutional transformation, and Maria also mentioned the empowering of HEIs. So I think this project kind of bring this all together. And yeah, once again, my name is Rimante Rusaite. I work at UIIN, and we are coordinating this project, Accelerate Future HEI. Yeah, so just a little bit, like where it comes from. So this project was a direct response to an EU Horizon Europe call that recognized the need for transformation in higher education. And Commission asked for acceleration services, a mysterious term, which maybe we will unpack a little bit with the upcoming presentations. But basically it includes things like mentoring, strategy development, capacity building. So we kind of put together a proposal and got the grant, which is really great because it also supports our work a lot in developing and designing methodologies with which we can support our members and community. So the project started in 2023, and it's a 4-year-long initiative, so we still have a little bit of more than a year to go. About our consortium, we are 12 partners from very diverse geography. We have 9 testing partners, which are universities from across Europe, including widening countries and outermost regions. And I think this diversity gives us really a rich view of different contexts. Again, getting back to Arno's presentation, how context is important. So different contexts and challenges that it brings. And we have also 3 acceleration partners that are supporting the universities in their institutional transformation journey. So we have Momentum in Ireland, us here in the Netherlands, and TUMINT International in Germany. Our objectives are fivefold. So first is to understand each university's current situation. Second, to design and test acceleration services. Third, build staff capacity through training. Fourth, evaluate the strategies with external stakeholders. And finally, generate policy feedback for European Commission. We base our work on the UIIN Entrepreneurial Innovative University Framework, and it serves as a foundation for the methodology to identify this desired future state, map current state, develop the roadmaps to achieve the goals. And to explain a little bit the framework, we look at 4 areas around entrepreneurship and innovation. So we look at the activities, the mindset of different stakeholders, organizational support structures, and wider impact and external ecosystem. So during the first 18 months, we call it first phase of acceleration services, we focused on understanding and planning. We ran workshops, surveys, vision sessions to help universities to scan their assets, define their future stage, and kind of set in practical terms the transformation pathways. And I think it's really important to note that we put a big focus on engaging the internal stakeholders from the very beginning to kind of help the project team to catch the momentum and really kind of have a wider impact in their institutions and hopefully beyond. And now we are in phase 2. So in the second phase, we shifted to implementation. So we are providing training courses, coaching, wider stakeholder engagement opportunities, also like this one, this event. We organize impact workshops and ongoing capacity building opportunities, peer-to-peer knowledge sharing, and of course, tracking of the results. So I wanted also to share some practical examples, how this transformation looks like. This is, by the way, our project team in Canary Islands last January. So each university follows its own pathway, shaped by their local context and the institutional priorities that they set in the beginning. And just to highlight a few examples today, there's a lot of stories and I cannot tell all of them. So just a few examples I'm sharing today. And thank you, by the way, to the project team who joined us. I saw a lot of familiar names. So first example, in Latvia, Widera University of Applied Sciences, the focus is regional anchoring. They work hand in hand with municipalities, young entrepreneurs, through innovation forums, youth labs, positioning the university as a key regional driver, kind of like one-stop shop for innovation in the region. So here we see a transformation pathway where universities are regional anchors, shaping local innovation. Another example, Belgium. So UCLL Transformation Initiative starts in the classroom. So here we see the curriculum design. So with donut economics, they are redesigning the way students think about sustainability and entrepreneurship. And this also change spreads outward through collaborations with SMEs and other organizations, which also involve students. So here we have the result of stronger innovation hub that empowers students and influence the regional ecosystems. So the transformation pathway can take up, curriculum innovation direction. Another example from Portugal. So IST is developing a build hub, an entrepreneurship hub focused on the built environment, so an important sector for them. Through hackathons, mentorship, advisory boards, they link academic expertise with strategic industry needs. So here the pathway is sector-focused, where universities establish the hubs that can accelerate innovation in strategic industries with also clear policy relevance. And the last example I wanted to share from UC. So they're part in Canary Islands, one of our outermost regions. The breakthrough is driving cultural change in their institution. So for the first time ever, they introduced shared KPIs for innovation and entrepreneurship across 3 different faculties, created new innovation spaces with also external stakeholders, and started implementing cross-department activities with students. So here we see the result is breaking down silos and driving systemic change. And yeah, these cases raises bigger questions. So I didn't have policy recommendations here, but I had some questions that maybe we can use later for discussion. Is how do we ensure that this transformation of all our 9 testing partners and partners of all the projects that kind of address this institutional transformation and acceleration services continues after the project ends? How can EU programs reward collaboration across silos? And how do we balance place-based innovation with also thinking about European cohesion? And to close today, I wanted to say that transformation is about aligning vision, tools, and people for systemic change. And I think someone also mentioned that, yeah, we believe that given a mandate and support, universities are well positioned to act as bridges between local ecosystems and EU-wide innovation ambitions and this competitiveness mission that we are embarking on. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for your attention.
Well, thank you,
This was my
Rimante,
last slide.
for sharing those insights.
Yeah, hopefully I got us a little bit back on track with the schedule.
I mean, it's never a problem. It's funny, there's 3 policy actions you highlighted, question. I'd written 2 of them down while listening to you. So I think it's very pertinent when we can come back to those points. And one additional one which you can think about is, as a policymaker in a regional or a municipality, what is the sort of access point in the university environment? Because you can always start chancellor, vice chancellor, but when you actually want to get into the issues you've highlighted, so maybe you can think of that answer when we're moving on. So let's hope our next speaker can also be efficient with his allocated time. And I know Ricard is a very good speaker and communication. So Ricard, can you take us now from the example of Widera to the Interreg world and the work you're doing at the Autonomous University in Barcelona?
I'll do my best, Marc, and good to see you again, and some other familiar faces, some of them who I'll even mention in a second. So let me share my screen with you. Okay, if you can please confirm me that it's working properly. All good?
Yep.
Yes.
Good.
Perfect. So, okay. So I'll connect like different topics in my presentation. So, of course, the topic that we're covering this afternoon is the role of universities, higher education institutions, connecting research and innovation policies. So I thought, okay, let's put different elements, different concepts together. And of course, I started with Interreg Europe in this case. So here are the projects, just for reference, in which I've been collaborating, participating, or even coordinating these last years in the previous programming period and in the present one. So because I realized that here on your right-hand side, you have those that lead directly to universities. So in the previous programming period, we have this HEIs project, which was the focus was on seeing how the use of infrastructure in universities can be improved, like make it more efficient, like put it to the use of the companies and even organizations, and thanks to that, put the university at the core of the innovation activities or research and innovation activities of a region. And nowadays, there's another project in which I'm participating through my university, of course, which is this knowledge analytics, which is let's make use of all the information, all the data, this evidence-based policy making for evidence-made policy making, where universities can have a role through all the knowledge that they accumulate. No? And we use the results and we use the information that we had or that we acquired, the learning outcomes from these projects when it comes to some other topics in which projects in which I participated. So for example, in the previous programming period, like I I participated in this aUPaEU project, which was about public procurement of innovation. So we could see the role that universities could have in that regard. And nowadays, if that would have continued, we have seen, like, thanks to this data, maybe we could run some AI tools that will tell us that these projects could have more impact than some other projects. So of course, all has an impact. And also we had this Qualify project in which it was about improving the competitiveness of SMEs in the agri-food sector, improving the quality standards. And of course, we combine that with the use of this infrastructure at the universities to run quality tests, for example, for SMEs. Or nowadays, we could also make use of data, obviously. And nowadays, like, and my colleague Karen from Sweden, she will explain it in a second, like, of course, universities have a role in developing rural communities. So I participate in this Origin project that she will mention later, and in which, of course, universities, she's from a university, she's also like part of the team that aims at developing new policies or improving policies that will support rural development thanks to this collaboration of the stakeholders of the region. So, of course, Interreg has a role, and I'll go back to Interreg in a second. So I'm going to say hi to another person who I saw in the attendance, who is Jane Woolford from the Joint Research Center of the Commission. So with her together, we work on these three reports that you see here. So basically, we analyzed three instruments of three European instruments for collaboration among higher education institutions, not only among them, but in tight collaboration with the stakeholders of their region, especially companies, but not exclusively. So you have here the links to our publications. So what I did is, okay, we analyzed these three instruments, the knowledge alliances from Erasmus Plus, in collaboration or based on the funding of DG EAC. Same with these European Universities Alliances, the same logic, and also the EIT's HEI initiative. So we tried to see if this collaboration of universities across Europe had an impact in these organizations' local ecosystem. So, okay, I'm a university, I collaborate with other universities in Europe. Does that have an impact in my own regional innovation ecosystem? So what I did is, of course, there you have all the information, all the results. I encourage you to read those super interesting reports. Some marketing is always good. But what I tried to think is, okay, what is the impact of measures like that or projects like that in our context? So in the Catalan regional ecosystem, or, well, Catalonia is so big that speaking of regional can be tricky sometimes, but in the local, in the city, in the metropolitan area of Barcelona, or in our industrial area. So how, thanks to this participation in these projects, that can be a catalyst for further or wider collaboration with the local stakeholders. So I followed, to discuss this impact, I subdivided it into 4 domains, which are the same domains that we used with Jane when we analyzed, like, all the instruments. The first one is the relevance of this collaboration when addressing territorial needs and challenges. So basically, all researchers, we have some knowledge about our region. We know the companies, we know organizations, we know what they need. But sometimes and often we know only those challenges that explicitly relate to our topic of interest. But sometimes we miss this aggregated or umbrella vision, and sometimes institutions, they cannot provide this to us. So I'm going to talk briefly about, for example, this ECAU University, which is one of the alliances. And this is the specific alliance in which my university is involved. No? So it says, what is the objective? So through the collaboration between universities, the idea is to identify and create mechanisms to improve the extent to which higher education institutions consider the challenges of their territory. So including all agents. So basically, are these projects, are these alliances useful for universities to put more attention into the local and regional, even national and European strategies? Are they more connected to the stakeholders in their regions and and thanks to that, they know better what they need. Is this a way in which the consideration of these challenges of these needs is widened? So I need to move myself so I can see the screen. Yes. So basically, we found out that these projects in general, but in the specific one of this SEU alliance, it had some benefits. So for example, as it says here, they often include the mapping that provides a broader understanding of the territories' need in research and innovation. For example, this HEI initiative of the EIT, one of the requirements to apply for those projects was like, okay, you need to map the needs and challenges of your region. So that forces you to start like thinking about those needs and challenges. So the activities implemented tend to address territorial innovation challenges, involving the entire academic community and generating positive externalities for other activities. So basically, when each university in this alliance is saying, we are going to give you little subsidies or we're going to develop some new activities, they always say, but we are going to consider the needs and challenges that we identified. So that's an important step forward, especially for some universities that never did this exercise before. And they also found out that in many cases, there's a connection with other regional, but also national and European strategies, especially smart specialization strategies or the SDGs of the UN. So basically also like universities made this effort to think, okay, how the local needs and challenges connect to international strategies, which give them an important vision. So for example, as a result of this alliance, my university created this reptes, in Catalan means challenges, UAB, which is thanks to the alliance. All the alliance does that. So basically, students with, as it says, team chairs, so professors, teaching staff who are the leaders or they propose these challenges. So they try to work together to identify real challenges of the local ecosystem, the regional ecosystem, and work with students, engage in projects which may lead to an actual RNI projects. Okay, next one. So another thing, it says, of course, we're talking about education. So developing educational strategies linked to the local innovation ecosystem. So a second domain is how universities improve their education, their pedagogical, their education-related activities to connect more with the needs of the local job market, like basically what companies need in terms of skills and capacities, what organizations do. So basically how, thanks to this collaboration, universities learn more about what their own local ecosystem needs. So we also identified some benefits, for example, in my university, but also in other universities that we analyzed in the aforementioned research projects. So for example, there's a substantial improvement in new educational methods based on challenges. As we said, challenges become very important, and students are really like very interested in activities that are based on real challenges, because as probably those of you who teach at some point, like you notice that students are less like they tend to it's difficult for them to concentrate with these long theoretical sessions, but when it's about a real challenge, they are much more interested usually. So the enhancement in student skills, including entrepreneurial and innovation mindset, multicultural abilities, multidisciplinary teamwork. So all these things are fostered and further developed thanks to the participation in these initiatives, or a closer alignment with the skill needs of professionals for the local industry. So basically, this is the micro-credentials that the Catalan government has developed in collaboration with all the Catalan initiatives. So basically what we said is like, hey guys, you, through your universities, you work, you collaborate in these projects, in these alliances, and so on. So why don't you make use of these international pan-European networks to develop these micro-credentials based on the needs of the institutions, organizations, companies of your own region. So basically these projects, these alliances gave us the right framework under which, or on top of which, we built these programs that address specifically these needs or these needs that were identified.
Two more minutes, Ricard.
I'm going to go further, faster. Widening the collaboration with R&I stakeholders. So for example, here, the best example, and I stole one specific example that you can read later on from our colleagues that Jesus will present later from UPC, from the Catalan Polytechnical University, which is this Knowledge Alliance project in which, okay, there were some projects to work together with the staff of companies, that the staff of companies go to universities and we design activities together based on education, but which may have an impact also in research and innovation. So it's not only engaging more people, like collaborating or expanding our network, but also like having actual projects with them. And of course, the institutional presence, the institutional context, no? So just because of these universities participate in these networks and in these projects, they also give, that also gives them like, it's like a little of marketing up to a point, but it's like an extra seal of quality. Like these universities are engaged in international networks to push for this further collaboration with their local ecosystems. But there are some challenges left, and here is where we go back to Interreg, because Interreg, it is the perfect, offers the perfect context, the perfect framework to consider these challenges and try to overcome them. For example, it says some challenges that we detected. The incorporation of policy learning into the territorial innovation ecosystem sometimes remains superficial or episodic. Okay, Interreg can be a good mechanism for you to work in improving that. Engagement with public authorities is often characterized by sporadic rather than structured. Persistent regulatory frame fragmentation and limited European-level policy cohesion constrains the scaling and sustainability of collaborative activities. Their impact on generating new research and innovation initiatives is still limited. Relatively limited widespread awareness of projects among broader ecosystem actors, or limited incentives for academic participation. So, and here is something that I considered for a fourth call of projects that is not coming, was like, how do we use the results, all of these challenges, and maybe in the near future we build an Interreg project that says we have these challenges and a number of organizations, we get together, try to provide solutions for better policies to overcome them. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ricard. One of your messages was similar to what Rimante was saying, is how do we take the knowledge and the connections and to the next level? And the question is it another project? Is it another type of collaboration? Equally, I think one of our participants, Richard Tufts, would have been pleased to see you mention the link to the smart specialization strategy, because policy alignment is important, so we don't just have DG X doing this, DG Y doing this, and the same within the Catalan government. So I think there is a good idea for universities being able to deliver cross-sectorial and those challenges. But some of the questions will come, and I would just like to stay in the Catalan now with Jesus from the Polytechnic Catalan. Jesus, perfect. Your slides are shared. I don't need to say anything. Off you go.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Well, let's start. I will go quick. I have these 10 minutes to explain our experience about the aUPaEU project. My name is Jesus Alcober. I'm associate professor at the UPC, Universitat Política de Catalunya, in Barcelona. And I'm the coordinator of this aUPaEU project. And my idea today is to explain this project and how can we propose policies, but first identify challenges and then propose policies in this scope. Okay, and let me see if I can. Okay, yes, the aUPaEU project overview. This is a project. It's a 5-year project. It will be finished at 27. Okay, and we are 5 partners, 3 of them from UNITE Alliance, and 2 of them from the EPICUR Alliance. That means that this project is focusing on this pan-European initiative accelerating institutional transformation in higher education institutions focused on alliances, university alliances. For those that you are not familiar with this, University Alliance Initiative is it's an initiative funding alliances in Europe, alliances of universities. Currently, we have about 65 alliances in this initiative with different levels of, I would say, maturity. Some of them, as UIIN, was funded 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and some of them have just started this year. That means that we have different, have a heterogeneity, at least from this maturity of the alliances. Okay? And we are offering, or we are promoting, enabling, being tangible, providing tangible solutions for these transformations of higher education institutions using or offering this Agora platform. The Agora platform is a digital platform, not only digital platform, it's a digital plus processes. Okay? And in the context of this workshop, okay, we are now focused on this, connecting regions, empowering universities through stronger RNI policies. The premises of this is that, as Maria mentioned before, is universities are the key drivers of Europe's competitiveness. Okay? They provide knowledge, talent, engagement. They support this triple helix, you know very well in this academia, business, public bodies. And the policies that we are recommended is we're focusing on removing barriers, this boost excellence, and in this specific case, regional attractiveness, and stimulate these interregional connections. Okay? What have been achieved so far in the project? Well, I mentioned we offer these agoras for different alliances. That means that UNI have their own alliance. I see, here in the audience, members from EUDRES as well. I see Diane and members of her team, and we offer as well the EUDRES Agora as well. And so far, about 12 university alliances are on board. Remember that we have 60 plus, that we have during these 2 years and a half, well, journey to fulfill. But by now, we have provided this minimum viable solution. And we offer this first version of accession services. This accession services has been co-created with the alliances, co-created with the universities. The next week I will be in Helsinki with the Unite Dialogue with 400 people there. Most of them will say, Jesus, please solve my problem to achieve my objectives, okay, in the alliance. And means that we are in this way of co-creating solutions. And the good thing is that when we co-create a solution, a digital transformation tool or service, we are offering this to the other alliances because they have similar objectives. Okay, this is the approach, and we are doing this in an open source software. Okay, and we are asking them to sign the agreements. We have achieved this 20 plus signed agreement, and we are in this, I would say, roadmap or achieving this. Okay, and the minimum viable solution, it consists of a set of services we offer just for use, just to have examples: research infrastructures, course catalog training for staff. Okay, we have research and innovation proposals. There are examples of co-created services with the alliances. We have not invented it. Internships, events, managing events of the alliance, forum blog, stakeholders management. For us, very important, the stakeholders management, because we have to measure the impact of what we are doing. If you have a catalog of something, a catalog, for example, of I would say research infrastructure, for example, just a catalog is not enough. You have to keep track of the relationship among the people, the researchers that are interested in this research infrastructure, and the contact person of this research infrastructure. We are keeping track of this because we have to measure the impact of our actions. Okay? It's a 2 minutes video of introduction, just to explain shortly the concept.
Welcome to Agora, the platform where transformation happens. Agora is a digital platform designed to support universities' digital transformation through acceleration services. Agora becomes a central hub for networks of higher education institutions, facilitating access to shared resources, enhancing collaboration, and streamlining innovation processes. Every university has unique priorities and challenges. Agora provides flexible services that can be adapted to each institution's specific needs. From catalogs of research infrastructures and of courses to stakeholder management tools, Agora ensures that each institution gets the support they need to accelerate their digital transition. Agora helps university alliances overcome fragmented infrastructures and unlock real digital synergy, achieving cross-institutional collaboration. It facilitates both institutional transformation and open science. The platform enhances access for under-resourced institutions, making sure everyone has an equal chance to get involved in research and innovation. Agora is more than a platform, it's a community. Universities can foster collaboration among researchers, facilitate stakeholder engagement, improve research infrastructure sharing, and much more. Members of the Alliance use Agora services to facilitate their interactions. For example, on the Research and Innovation Proposal Service, researchers can join new research groups and share their project ideas, whereas the Research Infrastructures Catalog gives users access to highly specified labs, knowledge facilities, and computing centers. And if you need support, visit the Agora support website or reach out anytime at agora@widening.eu. Our team is just a click away. We are helping universities grow, connect, and succeed together. Step into Agora.
Well, this is the two comments about what we are offering is under the scope, under the budget of the project up to the end of the project 2027. We are offering for free to any alliance that requires this kind of services. Start working with them. Okay, because the Agora is the key exportable result. That means that after that, the software will be open source. That means that any university or any alliance could be dealing with this. And I would just mention an example. For example, Ricard mentioned before these challenges, and reptors he mentioned. It's very interesting because, for example, in our case, we are working with United one side, and in this case with EU Green, with challenges, access service. And if we can gather best practices or experiences of this type of initiatives that in several places in Europe, they are working in these kind of things, well, and if you're using similar tools, I would say the collaboration will be, I would say, more effective. These are the 12 Agoras that are in place now. Here you see Udres, United, Picor, and challenges, because I think is the core. The challenges that we have identified from the aUPaEU point of view, because we are working with our sister project, CATALISI and Accelerated Future HEI. We are working on this policy brief, a joint policy brief, but from the aUPaEU point of view, we have detected this fragmentation of digital tools. There is a lack of interoperability, right? For sure, these challenges that is working in the UIIN is completely not interoperable with the challenges that are working in EU Green, for example. We have to solve this in order to promote this collaboration. Heterogeneity across HEIs. There is a balance, no? Universities want customization. I want the tool customized to me, but there's a balance because if it's quite customized to you, it will be different to interact with others. No? There's a balance between customization and standardization. This organizational inertia is it. There are unclear roles. There are not incentives for the professors, for the teachers, for the researchers. But resistance to change. We are working every day with them, and we know this very well. And these high-cost resource constraints, especially in widening regions, licensed products, not open source. That means, well, something that I think in Europe, something we have to solve in this area. Digital sovereignty, very important. Unclear priorities, the user engagement and trust, and limited knowledge sharing. You can see more or less which are the messages about these challenges and which are the, I would say, policy recommendations from our side. At European level is to promote co-design open and modular standards. We have to be interoperable. If we are working on an initiative, we have to take this initiative and move to other places in Europe, to other higher education institutions, to other alliances, to other group of networks. By the way, this Agora is not only for alliances itself, it's for a group of organizations working together and that they have different systems. Okay? We have to support these open source, cost-effective tools as public goods. Very important. Please forget about licensed software from overseas. We have a problem with this digital sovereignty. And align cohesion on horizon policies. Cohesion, the widening, we are focusing on widening. Most of our licenses have widening partners. In our case, in United, we have Gross Lab and we have Lisbon. Well, we have to align this cohesion with these horizon policies. We are offering solutions for alliances, regardless if it's only research, only innovation, or educational. For us, this border sometimes is a little bit it's difficult to see. For us, it's solutions, higher education solutions in this alliance. And the national regional level is to find interoperable. It's very important, interoperable digital platform. Otherwise, there will be silos of solutions that we will keep in a drawer. And in this case, for example, we are starting collaboration with the ARMA as well to make tangible what they are doing, because they are doing very impactful tools, but we have to make them tangible, that the researchers find these tools. And this incentivizes joint infrastructures and corporate cooperation. And at the higher education institution level, this provides a leadership endorsement. It's very important. The directors, they should promote this, okay? And build community of practice, that our sister projects are doing very well, share best practices, and ensure training capacity building is very important, always. Okay? Well, in our case, the Agora platform provides this, enables this type of solutions, but for us, it's very important. They should be open source, customizable, multilingual. We are in Europe, and that has to promote reuse, flexibility, and digital sovereignty. Very important, this aspect, now with these political scenarios that we have currently in place. And these are conclusions. I will just, this digital service must be open, flexible, it should be co-created, otherwise there is no sense. Active the user engagement, scalability and sustainability, and we need policies to deal with this, scalability and sustainability. Shared infrastructures, resources in general, strength, excellence and attractiveness, and the collaboration and policy alignment, and unlock transformation. This, for sure, you are very aware of this. And thank you very much. I don't know if it was too short, but and if you have any questions, I'm open to answer you.
Thank you, Jesus.
Excellent, Jesus. Thanks very much. I think three very interesting zooms in on this area that we're trying to discuss today. One of the messages I would give you straight away is, as colleague Nico shared at the beginning, we've done some work with DG Digit, and they are really looking for use cases to demonstrate interoperability. And I think, with this Agora platform, you highlighted in your last two slides many of the issues that we discussed with them on interoperability of public services at a workshop we had held in Vilnius last year. So I think if you haven't reached out to them, they would be very interesting on promoting the work that you're doing here as a means to demonstrate how some of these silo concepts can be broken, and the, as you've said, the digital path can actually facilitate this interaction. So DG Digit, they have a platform, who doesn't? And they're looking for case studies. We've given them some from Interreg Europe, and Ricard sort of highlighted the connections between Interreg and another policy platform. So I'd encourage you to do that. But okay, so the chat version of questions is available. So we've got 10 minutes now with those first three speakers. If you want to raise your hand, if you prefer to raise your hand, raise your hand. But if we've got any direct questions, but I've got one, which I sort of put on the table to you, Rimante, when you were talking. I think when you're in a policymaker environment, you can either take the strategic, high level, my president talks to your president, talks to your chancellor, etc. But at this sort of operational level, if you're in this sort of innovation department in a region, and you want to sort of access to understand how the different acceleration services, what's the best entry point for a policymaker in search of the first contacts? I mean, it sounds quite a naive question, but I think there is this sort of a complexity of, the British have this expression, town and gown. There's still some barriers between. But what would your experience in the way you've been using your case studies as a model you shared?
Yeah, well, I think it's not a naive question. I think it's a €1 million question, because it especially comes up also in university industry collaboration where you have this kind of like, people don't know where to start. So I think it's the same if you're coming from a policy perspective. And I think it's, again, like coming back to this kind of context matters. So it might be like different case-to-case basis, but when you think about like decision making and, you know, when you want to change something in your institution, like, of course, you have to have the leadership involved. If you want to understand like the challenges and day-to-day needs, I would like to say, like, looking into these like support structures, or like, you know, innovation offices, or like research managers and administrative staff lib would be kind of like the most productive entry point. And they, of course, then they could lead you to where you want to go, I think. But maybe also from like some university stakeholders here, they could also have their input, because I only have an external perspective. So we have this concept of boundary spanners. I don't know if you heard about that. So it's people who are actually doing the legwork and doing it out of passion, you know. So identifying those people somehow.
I think one of the issues that we found when I've worked with universities is sometimes they have a global perspective of who they want to cooperate with, who they're doing the research with. And when the regional policymaker comes along and says, work with my local SMEs, and they think, well, you know, I don't work with local SMEs, I can't work with. So I think that's, you know, part of the education program. And that leads me on to sort of the question for you, Ricard. Using the challenge-based approach gives better alignment with, this is my region. If you want me to finance some of your more exotic activities in the university, make sure you're aligned with my priorities. But in this challenge process you highlighted, what are the sort of listen, I don't want to use the word KPIs, but what are the sort of indicators you can use to show that they will mutually get some positive impacts, which Jesus mentioned as well as one of his barriers? That in your challenges, what sort of indicators can you use to sort of show that's better alignment and results on the ground?
We have different elements at the university level. So of course, this is one of the challenges still to be addressed. It is like how to make sure that the academic staff is interested. So there was a first, like maybe 15, 20 years ago, like depends on the country, of course, and the university culture regarding academia. But when Horizon started to be like the main thing, it just like people and academics and scholars were like, okay, they are proposing some challenges, and maybe it's time to start adapting what I do to these goals, because otherwise I will not get extra funding for my research. So now it's it's the same logic in a way, but applied to the local environment. It's just like, okay, for a very long time you've been focusing to all like some other topics, but now we see that locally there are some needs, there are some challenges. But of course, at some point there is the need for a trigger to involve the academic staff, to involve the university and so on. And these initiatives represent like the right opportunity, because for the first time, probably institutionally, universities are going there and I'm saying, okay, we're gonna lead the process and we will tell our staff, join us. There are challenges. There are like, we will create some activities inside the university for you to have incentives. Maybe, I'm talking about my university, we'll reduce your teaching hours. Maybe we will pay you extra. Maybe you will be recognized with something. So little incentive just to say, institutionally, we believe in this project and we are going to do it. So this is the first time that we see that it's not just specific professors or centers or departments that go and do it, but the universities say we will create incentives in like a method, like pedagogical methodologies that will be implemented throughout the university in a horizontal way, and that is a big step forward.
I think Arnault, in his introduction, he really made a strong point on this leadership dimension in terms of it's not just a sort of anecdotal, we have a bit of money. It's a part of the sort of strategic roadmap of the university, of the research center. So that's interesting. And I think you gave another example of the way public procurement can also be an incentive to cascade through the ecosystem to create more benefits can be through your university big budgets on cascade towards innovative public procurement, but also from a public sector perspective in which the university can participate in giving innovative solutions as well. In the chat, Jesus, we had a comment. It wasn't particularly directed at you, but it was directed at all of you. The 5 C's: contact, communication, coordination, cooperation, collaboration. Each one is quite different. In the sort of Agora, let's say, environment, where do you see your emphasis being on those 5 C's without, are you driving more the communication exchange, or are you driving more the deliver cooperation on the ground?
Yes. Yes. No, normally what happens in the alliances? Alliances have projects. They are funded by Erasmus+, we are funded by widening projects, and they are promoting this collaboration at different levels. The collaboration of staff, collaboration between academia with teachers and so on. Okay? That means that is one of the focuses of collaboration. And in order to showcase what they are doing, because at the end, when the staff people from different staff members from different universities are working together, they get results, best practices, toolkits. They want to showcase, and the aUPaEU is the best, the tool that fits this, because it allows in a very agile way to showcase these results. Okay? And for us, our focus is on collaboration among the different members of different universities, not only at the level of alliance, but at the level of all the alliances. And this, for example, the For You For project is very interesting because they promote the support collaboration among all the alliances. Remember that at the end, the impact is 10 partners per alliance, 60 plus 65 alliances means about 500, 600 universities. That means that this is very impactful universities.
Well, we'll be certainly sharing that in not only in this exchange, but in the policy learning platform, because I think it's an interesting approach. The last question I would like to ask all 3 of you, and it's a problem. So it's not a problem. It's an issue everybody faces at the end of a cycle of funding, whether it's national, European, university. It's cooperation can sometimes stop. It's like you fall off a cliff. There's no more funding. And I think, Rimante, you put it in your slide and said, look, we've done all of this good stuff. We want to take it forward. And if we look at the next framework programs, post 27, we're seeing a sort of a shift towards Horizon will be Horizon, but in the other programs, the notion of co-funding, and it's no longer here's the 100% or the 95% grant. It's you want to share. We share common objectives. Let's co-fund it, and this is first step. The next is blending different financial sources, and this is where we see the need for the territorial dimension to be connected, because blending means from Europe to national to local, because universities, for the time being, they're not virtual. They are in Barcelona, they are in Catalonia, they are in XYZ. And so just like all 3 of you should give some thoughts on this approach of how do we, let's say, capitalize on the project results beyond having a website that we keep up to date for 2 years. How do we introduce new financing mechanisms or opportunities? And I think that's, how these next steps, Horizon projects, we have the work package on maximization, impact, exploitation. But I mean, that can be quite general. But so any thoughts from the 3 of you on how we can deliver? Jesus.
Yes. Well, our approach is that the Agora is the key exploitable result. That means that you have to sustain this basis. And on top of this basis, we can get funding, not for us, but for those stakeholders that want to co-create on top of this. And for example, now we have submitted a proposal for research and assessment tools with OpenAir and other members. That means that we have to differentiate, because we are not in a project-based, we are project now, But the idea is to maintain, to keep this is a public. And on top of this, all the different, I would say, initiative will be welcome.
But you will have to maintain the platform, I guess.
Yes.
And that's like
yes. And now the approach is, if there is no additional funding, we will charge a fee for maintenance to do alliances. Is the approach.
It's the business model. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Rimante, do you want to try and ask, or Ricard, answer your question?
Yeah,
Rimante.
I can go. So I think one really good aspect that the SCOL that we are all funded under has is also integrating investment strategy development. And we are like trying to guide our testing partners, so our universities, to kind of think from now on a little bit as kind of like enterprises holding their projects. And because it's like the methodology that we had allowed for this very individual kind of pathway for each of our partners, they can really take it to different places. Again, there are, some policy barriers that can be removed on all levels. But I think this is one aspect. And like a lot of people are afraid of this kind of like universities acting a little bit as enterprises, but I think in that sense is really important. And and I don't think that it has to kind of limit the academic freedom. Those two can live together. And another aspect is that I see like this tendency now, like really like pushing for creating synergies between projects that are kind of have similar objectives. And I think that really kind of gives opportunity, for this learning curve, like to happen of like longer term, like collaboration, between partners, that they can really kind of be more proactive in like thinking kind of like more in advance, before the project ends and before they have to deliver the sustainability strategy. So we, at least in our case, we see that happening. So I see hope.
Good. Ricard, you share the optimism of Rimante.
I was not about to be optimistic. Should I reshape my? No, I was not about to be.
Give it to us straight.
I was not about to be pessimistic either. But it is true that it took a while for many universities, and that's something that we have to acknowledge, to understand that this tool or some of these tools, like the European Universities Alliance, were designed as like as an initial investment, subsidized investment for these networks to be created, not as a promise of like long-term public funding for the alliances. So, and I think that many universities, when we did research 2-3 years ago, they were expecting like, where are the funds for we to continue working together? No, the idea is that you have incentives to work together and that you find ways to do so. It is also true, and it's something that at some point is also interesting to should be debated. It's just like other universities also said like, okay, but if we stick to this alliance, we also miss opportunities that would come with maybe like being more flexible, and maybe we need some partners need to leave, some others need to enter, but then it's not an alliance anymore, it's something else. So there are still some elements of like the design of the instruments that are still to be considered.
You want this agility. I just use the word agility, and partnerships can, well, you sign a nice letter, so you got to try and be more open. Okay, right. I apologize for running a bit over. So instead of a 15-minute coffee break, I hope your coffee machines can deliver coffee quickly, because you now have 6 minutes to have a comfort break. And if you'd like to join us again at 4 o'clock, and Antoine will start us off from France in the Contest region from SATT, followed by Stefania from Italy, and then Karine will finish off from Sweden. So just switch your camera off and your microphone and come back in 5 minutes now. Thank you very much. Welcome back, everybody. I know it's we get very used to our online meetings, and phone ringing. Apologies for that. virtual coffee break, I hopefully gave you a chance to stretch your legs. What we've got lined up for the rest of the afternoon for you is 3 more presentations and then a more interactive session. The Slido, we've got one Slido which I'd like my colleague Valentine to share with you because it will help us prepare the final session. So Valentine, the one where we have the Slido choices of sharing an idea, sharing a concept, sharing. I don't know if you can put that on the screen. Where is my Valentine? Here she comes. So not this one, the next one. There you are, perfect. So this is to help us get ready for the last session. Oops, you need to, you've covered up the Slido, Valentine. There you are. So I think most of us know how Slido are used. We would just like to sort of get from your perspective to help shape the final discussion, answering one of these questions. So we'll leave it on the screen for a few minutes. You can scan it. The idea is to say, okay, if you have a magic wand and you're looking at the regional innovation policies that you're aware of, perhaps you can, oops, well, I share them, an idea. And some of you have been putting reports and documents in the chat. That should be another way of learning from each other, or a successful example of a policy you think could be shared. So hopefully we'll put the Slido information in the chat because I don't want it to disturb the speakers. But while you're listening, you can add ideas and then we'll bring it back for the last session. So just, we'll keep it active and my colleague Valentine has put it kindly into the chat. So one other question for you, Valentine, is some people disconnected and come back. They're waiting in the waiting room. So if you can let them back in, that would be great. And now, Antoine, hopefully you're here, Antoine Parmentier from the SATT Alsace Conectus. Are you here, Antoine?
I am totally here, yes, indeed.
Perfect.
Should I share my presentation?
You can share your presentation, introduce yourself, and 10 minutes, and then I'll give a little warning. So thanks again.
Sounds good. Can you just confirm you see it in full screen?
Not yet in full screen. Perfect, yes.
So hello everyone. First of all, thank you for being here and thanks for inviting me as well. So my name is Antoine Parmentier. I'm External Relations Manager for Conectus, which is a tech transfer organization. SATT stands for Society for Accelerating Tech Transfer in Alsace. We are a mutualized structure that covers most of the universities and research centers locally. Now, I do have lots of slides. I will pass them very quickly because you will have them after. It's just for general context because the focus today is to talk about search and valorization of research results. Because as far as I'm concerned, to answer the question asked just below, we would love to see more focus on deep tech from the region. And the second challenge that most TTOs and therefore regions have to face is that too few researchers actually do valorization, do tech transfer, do knowledge and tech transfer. In Alsace, for example, we did an analysis and about 4% of public academic researchers actually engaged in various valorization practices. It's still a very low number and one that we think needs to be increased, hence this good practice. So very quickly, that is what we presented during our VIADUCT project. It's effectively very simple. It's very basic and we have not found so far a better way to increase researchers' participation in valorization than to go see them, to be in the labs, to be where they work, to stand by the coffee machine, to offer sometimes free croissants. We're in France, so that often works, and to engage in conversation, because what we've noticed is that one, many of them are in the publish or perish mentality, which is necessary due to the career. Two, they don't necessarily know what valorization is. And three, they don't necessarily know that it's not something that they have to do on their own, but that they can get a lot of help. And to finish that, many of them don't know that their research may hold potential. In Alsace, we have a very strong focus on medtech and health and chemistry, for example. But human sciences can also be a great fund for tech transfer and knowledge transfer, even though many of those researchers don't necessarily realize that. So the whole idea was to really go closer to the labs and also, of course, to organize some training. Now I'll go into a little bit more detail on how we organize this and mostly how we found the human means to do it, because as you can guess, standing there trying to interact with individual researchers, trying to create those kind of contacts necessitates a lot of HR. So in order to do that, we allied with a new initiative called the PEUEA. We love acronyms in France, maybe more than almost anywhere else, which stands for University Innovation Cluster. It was a national financing that didn't shoot to create new structures, but to help local groups of universities and research centers to focus additional financial means where they needed it most to generate more innovation within the university. In Alsace, we are fairly lucky. We are relatively well coordinated, well advanced for that. So most of the means of the PUIA went into better data analysis, not the topic today, and reinforcing the means to meet researchers. To translate that into numbers, with 6 research organizations in Alsace, we had approximately 4,000 researchers. Before we had the PUIA financing, at Conectus, we had 4 people doing that type of technology scouting, meeting with researchers. But because they also do contract management, that meant they only had 20% of their time. If you had those from our sister organizations, such as National Research Center, that was 1 to 1.5 full-time equivalent people doing this, which for 4,000 researchers only allowed us to approach the one that probably already knew everything about what we're doing. In order to reach further, to reach the ones that don't really know the existence of our structure, that don't really know EU projects in tech transfer, that don't really know that we have financing for them, we really needed to multiply the number of full-time equivalent. And that's what the resources of the PUIA offered. Now, it can be a little more complicated in the sense that, of course, it's additional HR, but because those HR were separated into various organizations, we still had eventually to really coordinate between all of them and to make sure that all of those people went to see not the same researchers at the same time, but really spread the efforts as much as possible. One example is that when we first recruited people from that innovation cluster, we started with human sciences and with green tech, because we felt that those sectors held probably a lot of hidden treasures in terms of valorization and research results, and also a lot of researchers that didn't know that they had gold on their hands, if I may use the expression. So it was necessary and extremely useful. We did not start with biotech because that sector not only was more covered by our various services, but it was also a research field where researchers are usually more used to working already in order to create startups. The last point I'm going to add before I open the floor for questions is that it's also very important to understand what the researchers want. We do not want to force them to do something against their will, especially since in France, their career is based on publishing. It's not based on creating startups. It's not even based on teaching, even when they do. It's definitely not based on valorization. So in order for them to do that, they need to find an interest those interests can be very varied. It can be to help brilliant PhD students to actually launch a startup, to keep working on a research result, even though the lab wouldn't necessarily have the financial means to hire them. It can be for the researchers themselves to receive income from licensing fees. It can be to reinforce the lab's financing due to those licensing fees. It can also be a way for researchers to become entrepreneurs and to discover what applied research holds in terms of challenges. So we really need to understand what they want individually, because you have all that very wide types of incentive, or not of incentive, of motivations that they could have. And in order to do that, again, you need to spend enough time that you really can chat with them individually.
I'm sorry, I struggled to get my microphone open again. Thanks, Antoine, for giving us a very succinct summary of these institutional structures that are playing a key role in the contest of Strasbourg, in case people are not familiar with the particular territory. Just one question before the next speaker. The identification or the prioritization of the sectors, you mentioned some, for example, you said, well, we're not going to do biotech, biosciences, because that's well covered. It's a mature ecosystem. I was just wondering to what extent when you applied for the PIU funding, to what extent did you have to justify to the sort of the policymaker, in this case, the national level, where you would be focusing your resources, and what was sort of the arguments for saying we want to do this and not that? Because that's a good example.
Of course, it's very tricky, because that university innovation cluster has to show results. It doesn't have to show result organized by thematic. However, you could argue that going into human sciences is, because it's more difficult, will yield fewer results. So it was a matter of trying to balance this risk, but also with maybe the opportunity that it offers, because it was a sector that had not really been mapped yet, where the researchers had not been approached yet, and where maybe it was holding enough interesting results that it would bring us eventually the results that we were hoping for, especially because if we use human sciences, I mean, in biotech, it's pretty straightforward. You develop a molecule. It's very complicated, of course, but business-wise, you develop a molecule, you create a startup, the startup works on it, it gets bought back by a CRO, and then a bigger one. In human sciences, you have to be more subtle. It's normally not the research result alone that will become a startup or be transferred to a company. Maybe you need to establish a software, so maybe it needs to work through a collaboration. And we try to activate the ecosystem, such as the incubator or even the innovation agency, more in cases such as that, in order to maximize chances of success.
Okay. And in terms of the physical infrastructure, has there been any shift in the way in which you support projects beyond you're still in your lab, you're still in your office, when they step out of the university or research institute? It's the infrastructure there. I think a number of the partners mentioned the importance of the infrastructure to support the next stage of the acceleration process.
There are more and more what you call in French common labs between especially big companies and laboratories, but those tend to work pretty well on their own. For that initiative that I discussed, we're really focused on scouting discoveries by researchers. So it didn't quite necessitate physical infrastructure. It did, however, necessitate for all those innovation scouts and officers to get out of their own offices and to go into the labs, because physical contact, at least at first, remains primordial. If you send an email to researchers, if you do LinkedIn communications, it's all well and good, but if they don't know you, they are so inundated with messages that they will not really notice them. If they have a real person across from them who can really enter a discussion, even if it's 5 minutes, we feel it's much more efficient. And because we're a relatively small area, geographically speaking, and in terms of number of researchers, it's something we can physically do.
Our colleague Arno Morisson said, you know, better than ChatGPT, and no avatars wandering the corridors.
Once the contact is established, it's something else, but researchers need to have a name of a person and someone they can trust, whose hand they've shaken. It's even more important today because of all the AI tools and online tools.
Okay, well, thanks for those extra insights, Antoine. Fortunately,
absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and you'll stay for the session. Fortunately, we have a name for our next speaker, Stefania. So it's not a chat bot, but now we're going to take the journey. Well, we like your turtle in your screensaver. Now we're going to CATALISI. Stefania Laneve from the APRE agency in Italy. But floor is yours if you'd open your mic and off you go.
Thank you, Marc. Can you see my screen? And can you hear me?
I don't think you need to hold the
Perfect.
microphone. It works very well without them.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stefania Laneve, project manager at APRE, the agency for the promotion of European research. And today I'm here to introduce you the CATALISI project, which APRE is actually coordinating, and to share some insights on one of the acceleration services for institutional transformation in higher education institutions that this project has developed and tested across several universities across Europe. So what is CATALISI? CATALISI aims at helping and supporting higher education institutions to successfully implement a strategy and individual pathway for institutional transformation through the adoption of 7 innovative acceleration services. These acceleration services are designed to facilitate and accelerate institutional transformation in research and innovation, with the ultimate aim of strengthening European universities' collaborations across regions to maximize the value of research and its impact, to govern the transformations affecting science and innovation, and to produce and disseminate high-quality knowledge. The project is implemented by a consortium of 11 partners from 8 EU countries, including 3 widening countries, which are Poland, Lithuania, and Greece. The consortium is built upon 2 main blocks, 4 facilitators, which are APRE, EY, Ernst & Young, F6S, and Arnault, who are accelerating and facilitating this transformational process of higher education institutions through the development of acceleration services, and 7 implementers, who basically are our universities that are pursuing institutional transformation and that are committed to introduce new reforms in their structures by intervening in specific domains and intervention areas. The domains and intervention areas of our project ranging from research careers and talent support to research modus operandi, including, for example, open science and open access, and sustainable research and education. Here you can see the 7 acceleration services developed and tested to catalyze this process of transformation. Today, we will focus on this one, capacity building and outreach, since it is the core of mutual learning and cooperation among universities, but also between universities and local ecosystems. Moreover, it is one of the services that, according to our universities, to our implementers, has proved to be very effective to accelerate institutional change. The main goal of this acceleration service is to strengthen higher education institutions' international competitiveness and achieve institutional reforms through a multi-level knowledge-sharing methodology that provides skill set and connects different universities around Europe and other societal actors to exchange good practices and experiences on institutional change. To do so, this service is composed of 3 main activities: a learning hub, including the development of 14 training webinars aiming at providing universities with the necessary knowledge and tools required within the dynamic that they operate; the so-called mobilization and mutual learning workshops, aiming at providing higher education institutions with the practical knowledge, concrete examples, and inputs to achieve and manage institutional change over time through a co-creative mutual learning methodology; and finally, the so-called twinning schemes, which aim at creating a mechanism to secure the knowledge shared and experience how other peers, so other universities, have already performed specific institutional changes. And here you can see just a map that can give you the idea of the meaningful connections across Europe created by these activities between institutions, local communities, regions, countries, and of course, people. For these activities, we designed a replicable methodology that is structured enough to be replicable, but also flexible to be adapted to different institutional contexts and realities. As you can see, both the MML workshops and the twinning schemes include a 4-step methodology, a preparatory phase, an organization phase, an implementation phase, and finally an evaluation phase. It is worth noting that with APRE support as facilitator of this service, the agenda of these activities has been built taking into account the specific needs of each higher education institutions and of the relevant stakeholders, both internal and external, involved in the transformation process. Instead, the agenda of the twinning exchanges has been built and co-created with the visiting higher education institutions, so with other peers, and is based on careful matchmaking between universities' needs and expertise. And here you can see just an overview of the topics addressed by universities during MML workshops and the twinnings. As you can see, there is a strong emphasis on institutional changes driving better policies and practices in areas such as research, careers and assessment, ethics and integrity, public engagement, the strengthening of universities within local innovation ecosystems, and sustainability in research and education. When looking instead at stakeholder engagement, especially in the MML workshops, you can see that one category stands out as the most prominent. From what our implementers reported, this is mainly because stakeholders, in their opinion, don't all play the same role at every stage of the process. In the early phase, we engaged actors across the quadruple helix, but once it comes to implementing concrete changes within the universities, academic actors at different levels remains the key sector and the one most capable of initiating transformation within the university, the institutions. Here you can see just an overview of some success factors of this methodology. With regard to the MML workshops, for sure the participatory design and interactive format played an important role, since it allowed, through the use of a co-creation technique, to stimulate interaction and reflection and facilitate discussion in formal context. The methodology flexibility was another key point, since it allowed an adaptation and tailorization to specific institutional needs, goals, and challenges, and to a wide range of topics, and then also the focus on relevance and improved understanding of complex topics directly linked to institutional priorities is another key aspect. With regard to twinning exchange, the peer learning environment for sure has enabled open discussion between universities, sharing experiences and concrete recommendation, and also exploring solutions together. The careful pre-planning with the matchmaking exercise previously mentioned has also been a success factor for these activities, and also the possibility to connect with the local communities and experts across different European regions has played a crucial role for the success of these activities. And finally, I would like to share with you some recommendations to foster the uptake and scalability of this acceleration service. So at institutional level, for sure, what we recommend based on the CATALISI experience is to try to institutionalize practices such as the knowledge sharing and mutual learning approaches by embedding these approaches into regular governance and strategic planning cycles for staff members, to build facilitator capacity by training internal facilitators in co-creation methods, participatory technique, and evaluation to ensure high quality delivery, and to map and engage quadruple helix stakeholders from the beginning. Based on the field of the area of transformation, it is essential to map relevant stakeholders and closely work with them from the start to identify needs, challenges, and contributions, and providing simple incentives for external participation, such as visibility, joint outputs, etc. And this is very much connected to what we were discussing before during the first session of this policy workshop. At national level, we recommend to foster interregional mutual learning and twinning networks by facilitating national matchmaking platforms, for example, to scale this approach beyond single exchanges, to integrate mutual learning outcomes, for example, also into national evaluation by recognizing mutual learning outputs in national quality assurance or performance frameworks, and to incentivize institutional uptake through national funding schemes. At EU level, we recommend to continue embedding mutual learning into ERA policy frameworks and future calls to finance facilitation and capacity roles by, for example, dedicating EU funds to training and sustaining facilitators and the so-called change agents within higher education institutions to ensure replicability and long-term uptake, and to try to fund scalable mutual and peer learning instruments. To conclude, you can see here just some pictures from some of our MML workshops and twinning exchanges organized in our project. That's all from my side. Thank you for your attention, and if you have questions, I would be happy to answer.
Well, thank you, Stefania. I'm glad you're happy to answer the questions, because there's two that have been directly put into the chat, so I can read them out to you. First, Rimante is asking you, how can capacity building efforts move beyond one-off trainings to become more part of the sort of mainstream activity, the transformation journey in the partners of your project?
Okay, thank you, Rimante, for this question. So actually, what we are trying to do with our universities, with our implementers in the CATALISI project, is to try to embed these acceleration services, in particular those that has worked the best in our project, in their transformational pathways. What are transformational pathways? Transformational pathways are documents, roadmaps that they are building together with the help of some of our facilitators and of course with the help of their stakeholders, internal and external, and to try to put in this transformational pathway actions, activities, KPIs for the long-term period. So for let's say the 2 or 3 years beyond the project lifetime, so that they can continue and they can commit to sustain and to continue with this transformation process. Because what we experienced in our project is that, but for sure you and also Jesus with the aUPaEU project, is that institutional transformation is not an easy path. It requires time. It is not possible to achieve, let's say, big changes in only 3 years of a project. So they need to start with small actions, but then these actions need to be improved and then also sustained over time. So this is our way, let's say, to try to embed capacity building in the institution and in the governance of their institutions.
Yeah,
thanks, Stefania. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, and I think that kind of because capacity building is also part of Accelerate Future HEI, and it's one of the activities where we encourage the partners to bring as many stakeholders in their institutions as possible to kind of give them shared language to talk about this transformation. I think this is one of the aspects. So.
And just if I may add a last point, this is in our mind. I don't know if we will be able to do so by the end of the project, because CATALISI will end in December. But our intention is to try to let this transformational pathway signed by, let's say, top-level managers in their institutions, so that there could be a real commitment to continue implementing these changes in the next year beyond the project lifetime. Yeah,
it's embedding it in the institutional framework and not just seeing it as a one-off project. That was nice. Let's move on to the next. There's one other question for you in the chat, and you showed in one of your pie charts that, or camembert, if we want to stay in France, pies, camembert. You showed us the engagement of different groups, and the big chunk was obviously the academic community. And Richard Tufts here has asked a question about, how do you get more traction with civic stakeholders, which are not the usual suspects, perhaps, for this type of activity? What's your sort of feedback on that?
So this is a good question, because actually for us this is also a challenge. As you might have seen from from the graphics, from the charts on stakeholder engagement, the majority of the stakeholders involved in our activities are from academia. We had a few less stakeholders involved from the other categories of the quadruple helix. This is a challenge that has been highlighted different time by our implementers, by our universities. For them, it's not so easy to engage with external stakeholders. They don't know very well how to do it, but as mentioned before, they think that at this stage, and of course also depending on the topics, on the areas in which they are pursuing institutional transformation, not all stakeholders are relevant at the same way, in the same way at the same time. So, for example, civil society citizens have been more involved in universities in institutions that, for example, started the transformation process in the public engagement area. For example, there is one of our universities which has undertaken a transformation process in citizen science, and there it has been more easy to involve civil society. But for example, in universities where that has started a transformation process, for example, in open science, in research assessment, the involvement of civil society, but not only civil society, for example, also industry or government, has been very much difficult, because they say that, these changes should start in academia and then maybe spreading across the other categories. Yeah.
No, I think everybody, if you'd asked anybody on today's workshop answering, they would probably come up with the same answer as you. The challenge is to find the right intermediary bodies that actually feel impacted or relevant. And I think you saw in one of the early slides from Interreg Europe, one of the new thematic areas is the notion of citizens. And I think there is a topic of citizen engagement in the research and innovation community, if it is important for securing different territorial impacts. But I want to leave some time for the end to bring all three speakers. So thank you, Stefania, and then you can join us again shortly. The last presentation for this session, Karine, I think you're still with us.
Yes, I am. I came back.
Well done. So thank you very much. And we're going to have some insights from you on the urban-rural, but more the rural university in mid-Sweden. So share your slides and hopefully...
Valentine, could you please share the slides? Thank you very much.
Perfect. Off you go.
Say next when you're going to change. Okay. Yes, the university I represent is called the Mid-Sweden University, and it's situated in northern part of Sweden, although it is the middle part, because this area is rather rural, it's remote, because you have 90% of the population lives below the yellow dot that you see there, and then you have 10% of the rest of the country lives in the northern part. So it is a rather rural area. The Mid-Sweden University is a rather young university. It became a university 20 years ago, so it is having its 20th anniversary this year. It's been a higher educational institute before that for some 20, 30 years maybe, where they existed. It's interesting to see it's not big. There are two campuses, one in the area called Sundsvall on the east side of the Swedish map, and Sundsvall has about 100,000 inhabitants, and the campus has approximately 700 employees and 3,000 campus students. And on the other side, you have Östersund, which has 65,000 inhabitants and around 500 employees at the university and 3,000 campus students there as well. What is interesting is that we have 24,000 enlisted into the university, and most of them are. So there is a lot of distant students that want to be a part of this university, of academic courses. But and of course, we have research students. We have a full university, but there are 2 faculties only, so it's not so big. One in science and one in humanities as such. And the 2 regions that actually surround these 2 campuses is the region of Jämtland Härjedalen and the region of Västernorrland. And this area is 71,100 square kilometers and has 337 inhabitants, which means it's not so, it's a long distance between a lot of people here. Next slide, please. Just to give you a brief background on the case I'm going to talk about is, where do the students come from? The new students come a lot from the region, actually, but we can see from the west side, you have approximately 4% of the students, which is rather remote. But here you have the skiing areas, you have the reindeers, you have the mountains, you have the waterfalls, you have a lot of fishery and a very attractive environment for people to move into. Very much small industries, also in forestry and not mining though yet. Even though they are trying to take out some mining, but there's a lot of protests around that area. And on the right side, you have there's 70% of the students and huge industry, paper and pulp industry. There's defense industries, a lot of export industries on that side. And then there are all these other students that come from the southern part of Sweden, mainly. One interesting point for me to point out for you is that there are remote, which will be the case and we'll talk about, is about we have remote students living in the area of Östersund, and approximately 1,000 people are remote students that don't have any academic connection at the place, but live there and are found as a resource. Next one. And I will give you a case. So now we go into a case study here. There's been a lot of policy, but this is a case study. We will talk about remote students and the remote campus in Östersund, which is actually, and the question addressed here from the municipality was actually, how can Östersund contribute to regional development by building more inclusive and educational pathways, and how to strengthen synergies between higher education, local business, and public services? And is it possible to better support the 900 remote students and enhance their opportunity to engage locally? Next slide. And based on a lot of history, which I will talk about later, there was a peer review by the Interreg policy platform in April 2025, where some key questions were addressed that were how to design a sustainable and multifunctional remote campus that support remote students while benefiting the wider community and economy, how to design sustainable funding, governance and management models, and how to strengthen the connection between remote students and the local labor market. Next one, please. And then why are we asking, why are we doing that? Because we have a good practice that's actually published on the Interreg Europe web on the project Origin in February 2024, which is called Remote Lab, a distant work and co-creation knowledge hub in the region of Jämtland Härjedalen. And you can find that if you enter in there. But I would like to mention something from this knowledge creation hub that we have. It was actually founded by two entrepreneurial girls that wanted to live in the area. In 2017, they just started a co-working place in Östersund, which is called Morisson Östersund, as you see there. They wanted to run this co-working place. But they wanted to know how to do it and how can this be done. So they actually talked to the region, the university, and then the university decided to finance and go in with researchers for 3 years. So it actually financed this cooperation for 3 years, 2021 to 2023, with 100,000 euro per year in research to understand how can you work in this remote cooperation in this type of place. So they actually, so here we got some knowledge about how to run a community, a remote lab, and then the Morisson Östersund, the network of companies, small companies that sit there is flourishing and they are working rather well. And on top of that, we actually got something called Samverket, a cooperation platform for public organization to exchange experience, to work on their issues, to define challenges and so forth. And we have since long back, you talk about engagement, we have since long back, the university has made research agreement with the municipalities since 2012 and with the regions. It's bilateral research agreement, but they are moving more and more into programs. And here we finance 50% from the university, 50% from the cities. And what is interesting, or the communities, is this is a way to foster sort of a common view on research, to understand what is research and what kind of, and the university want to be more excellent, they're driving to going from local being more excellent, so they want to tap into international platforms. And the society would like to solve some. Okay, next. So there was actually a need here in April 2025 to identify the remote student as an untapped potential with updating the Östersund municipality business development strategy for sustainable growth. And there were some specific population to be targeted. They really had to identify what are the target we're going to work with. The remote student, of course, there could be some locals, there could be other students and so forth. And to identify the needs and aspiration of each population here. And what we see as a common is that all this, there are key challenges with remote students. There are the risk of social isolation and mental health is very concerned. There is a limited interaction with local labor market because they sit mainly at home. I mean, it's good with Teams and Zoom, but they don't interact as much as they could, and not getting academic background. And there is a lack of, at least in this city, a lack of physical or institutional infrastructure to support remote learners, which contribute to a lower success rate compared to campus-based education. Next. So what we did before the whole Interreg team come with all their experts, and together with them as well, there has to be some kind of agreement on the goal. What do you want to achieve? Why are we doing this? Are there any benefit? And from the municipality points, of course, and the business, there is a need to get skilled people, and they want to get people into employment. That's really important, especially in remote areas. There's not so many jobs, so maybe they can create their own job. And there is a need for larger, more diverse student population. There are 3,000 academic students on campus, but there is a need for more. And of course, there is a need to prevent isolation and dropouts and ensuring that the students are able to sort of get good quality education. And of course, if this works out well, it's good for the city. Maybe the branding can be better, and maybe we can establish some community building devices and connect with the culture policy. So that was some of the main goals that was agreed on. Next. So based on the policy review, there were some 5 recommendations, and I can go into detail in all of them, but I don't think I have the time. Actually, to define and develop the remote campus concept is a key, I think, and that is firstly to recognize that there are remote students in the city and that they are a part of a strategic plan, and learn more about their needs, what do they want, and then to also open up a space that actually can take them in and to serve them and give them tutoring, maybe to meet the local companies, meet academic, and to get a part of the academic world. And then the next recommendation was to establish a robust governance and management structure. There is a need that all these stakeholders that were identified in the peer review also need to participate in the management structure, and there has to be a good management. Yeah. And there has to be secure, diversified, and sustainable funding. It's always an issue that you get a project financing. There are short, that's what happens all the time, and then all the ideas and good things disappears. You have a project for 2-3 years. And then the strength and the linkage to the local labor market is also a key asset here. Next. So what have we done and what have we learned so far? Actually, I think by having run the remote lab and getting this very good strategic plan, the peer review, we know what to do, and there is a plan. The municipality opened the physical place actually on the 26th of September. So it rebuilt it and it's physically there now. It's not filled really. And the race for funding has started. And actually it's so that different organization is trying to sort of get the different part into this to build it up. Especially, and then we build on what already exists and try to sort of add these functionings to the knowledge from running the public community, the Samverket, and then we have the Challenge EU Alliance. Challenge EU is our European alliance, and we really think that this remote campus can be a very good place for the students in this alliance to sort of meet and work. And we have the knowledge from the remote lab. We have all these small and medium enterprises, and of course we have some incubators. But the challenges here are that we need to get the shared knowledge base is key between politician, management, and the people who actually knows how to do the work. It's very easy that it actually varies and go in different directions. And also to find the right community management who understands the target group and their needs and are connected to the university and local business. This is what we think is a success factor. Not the management I'm talking about. Maybe it's not just one person. Maybe you have to have more people. And of course, sustainable financing. Next. And then, of course, other areas of cooperation is initiated by the university. I can mention some before I end this, is the benefit that could be beneficial in the rural area, because it's very, very long distances to get into Östersund. It could be 120 kilometers and so forth in the same region here. So if I start at the bottom, there are regional hubs in different communities which actually enable joint local work, and distance studies that can be tapped into this kind of network. And then we have this Samverket, as I said, a network of public organization led by the community manager employed by the university since 2021. And it's actually been more and more successful. It seems like all the national bodies like the taxation office, the regional body, the municipality, and the university, they go there and have breakfast and they eat and they talk. And there you can come up with new ideas. Yeah. And then you have the since long back research agreement with surrounding 2 regions, as I mentioned before, with all the municipalities and with the regions, which actually foster a common view on research. Next. So now I say thank you because this was all, but it's very concrete. Example.
Thank you very much, Karin. Appreciate it. I mean, very different case studies, but I think
very different.
Listening to you, I'm just wondering some of the remote best practices could be taken into the more urban areas. The community university community manager. I could imagine that in big cities as well, because it happens to Arno and I and Ricard online here. We are in Helsinki, Uusimaa region this week, and on the last days, of the peer review, we have the stakeholders coming in, and the city of Helsinki representative came in and said, look, our challenges are reaching out to the community in a different way, the engagement, the different inclusive policies of different target groups, and whether you're dealing with new migrants, whether you're talking with unemployment, other disadvantaged groups, the human interface is important. And so I think if Antoine and Stefania, you're still with us, I think there's a joint question to all of you. And Karin just gave us an example of the human facilitators. In your presentation, Antoine, you said, you know, we had these resources, but when you actually looked at the detail, they were only available like 1 day a week each. So it was like little bits. And Stefania, in your sort of capacity building workshops, the human factor is essential. And would you agree that without this, you know, let's say, interactions that are facilitated by knowledgeable, and you've made that point as well, Karin, you know, it can't just be anybody. You have to understand the different needs of the academic research community and the targets. Would you know, agree that the notion of the human resources is at the heart of this acceleration and exchange process?
Anya, would you like to answer first, or should I go?
You're talking.
No, you
Antoine.
can go, Antoine. Yeah, yeah, you can
Go ahead.
Yeah, as we said, that human factor is essential, really for two reasons. Because as we discussed, there is such a flood of digital information that researchers will sometimes not even look at it anymore. They do check the emails, but for some reason, if you don't know them personally, most of the time they will not even register. I mean, in France, even union emails, and this is not a comment on union specifically, can sometimes numbers 10 a day. If you add external consultants, the newsletters that you have, it is a complete flood. So stepping away from that flood is very useful. Although, as we said, it necessitates direct human resources. The second thing for those human resources is that, of course, as I said, they need to hang out by the coffee machine and meet the researchers. But in order to do that well, they need to have done their homework and to know at least a little bit about what the researchers are working on, you know, what their research project in the past have been, maybe what European project they applied to, so they can just bring the right level of initial knowledge to kickstart the conversation and convince the researcher that they're really here to help them personally. And that actually is quite a bit of preparatory homework as well. So if you have 1 day a week to do it, it's going to be by necessity very limited. And I really do admire the community managers who do all the things on LinkedIn. They really do all they can, but the researchers need to at least already subscribe to the page to even see the information.
Exactly.
So all this is the preparatory work. So the two, digital and human, are very complementary.
I think it was back to what Ricard said in the previous panel session, the incentives for this to be functioning. Stefania, do you have any take on this human resource dimension of, you know,
yeah, of course. Yeah, of course, I totally agree with Antoine, and only to add that, of course, technical competencies are very important, but at the same time, the human component is very important, because people who want to start a similar transformation process, in my opinion, have to be very motivated. And also, it is important the human relationships that in a process like this they build, because these contribute to let's say establish a trust relationship also between different universities, between different people working in different institutions, in different higher education institutions, and of course also with let's say the stakeholders involved, and in our case with the facilitators, the flexible, let's say that a flexible mindset from our side is is needed and useful to meet the needs and objectives of our implementers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a couple of questions in the chat, Karin, also for you about these lessons we can take from rural to urban, and I think you can consider how that notion of the rural hubs could actually be transferred. There was a point that Ricard mentioned in the previous session, again, public procurement, and Richard Tufts was highlighting the role perhaps the public procurement could engage. So any quick reactions to those points, Karen?
I think it's a good point, because I see also at the university there is a time limit. I mean, there is not always an incentive to sort of go and speak to people unless they get breakfast, of course, because they are rather hungry. Or there should be some kind of incentive that actually do all this extra work. And there is often not much extra time compared to doing teaching or to do some research and have the combination. Then there is no more time. So that I think is a key issue, as Ricard said, to get some incentives there, and also then to foster that there actually is the society as such, that there actually is fun to do something together.
I was interested in, and you know, I was aware of this because I was part of one of the peer reviews in your region. The partnership agreements that you've signed with the municipalities, I thought was quite interesting. And the question is, who sets the sort of content, you know, the priorities, and how often are they renewed, these contracts? Are they a 1 year, a 3 year?
No, approximately around 3 to 4 years. 3 years. There is a management committee, or there is the highest board that actually finalizes and assign. That's the director of the university, and you have the highest bureaucrats at the community that actually sign the papers. But then you have some research, the faculty head of the faculties, and some of the department manager that actually also do work with the ideas. So there is actually rather a process that's going on there. Maybe it could be more simplified, but in the beginning it was rather administrative to be sure that it was actually on the level where it was research, not only some project. It had to be research and it had to be evaluated. But we're getting there now. I think it works rather well.
Yeah, and I think when you start an initiative like this, you know, year one is, you know, different people on different levels of understanding. The next cycle, it gets better and it gets better because you have the feedback loop. And I think that's a particularly interesting example of, you know.
But we have facilitators,
clearly you have facilitators. But I think one of the lessons that we can pick up on is how that type of model can work at a capital city as well as a medium city. You don't have to be, you know, knowing everybody that went to school with them.
No, it's rather fun to see someone else, I think.
What we discussed is, of course, a little simpler when the geographic density is higher and it's easier for those innovation officers to meet the researchers. It doesn't have to be a large city, but if facilities, research facilities are extremely decentralized in the area is, for example, very rural with large distances, it will be more difficult for sure. In that case, you may need to have innovation officers in each of the smaller research centers, but then it's more difficult for those innovations officers to coordinate each other, even though that's probably still a better solution, because as they know each other already, they can coordinate online, which is not an obstacle once you have specific contact established.
Okay. Well, thank you, all three of you, for sharing insights to your projects and your experiences. We're going to enter the last tranche of activities now. Two little reminders. We will try and close. We will close at 17:30, and appreciate those of you who stayed with us since the beginning. I know it's a long time, but we had lots of different speakers and perspectives, so we wanted to share those with you. We're going to now ask John Edwards, who's the sort of Secretary-General of EURASHE, which is the Association for the Applied Sciences in Higher Education, who's been listening, and he had some of the presentations before, to share some of his insights, not only from the practical, you know, the memberships, the organizations he represents, but also some of the European trends that every time I go to a meeting in Brussels, John is there. So he must go to more meetings than I go, otherwise it wouldn't be normal. But I think it's interesting to get his perspective now, and also take some time to look at the Slido, and then we'll show the Slido in the last session, and Rimante, my colleague Arno, and I will comment on that, and we'll wrap it up. But John, if you would like to share your camera.
Yeah, I will. I'm here.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm just doing my job, Mark, heading around Brussels, meeting people. That's my job. And yeah, I represent a certain type of higher education institution, which is University of Applied Sciences. You don't have them in every country. But that doesn't mean to say that I'm not interested in generally on all the role of all types of higher education institutions in their regions, which I am, and not just in my current job, but before then. And so I was very pleased to stick with you, as you said, till the end, because there were some really interesting presentations and case studies from different types of universities, different types of regions. So thank you very much for that. I've made one slide as a summary, and I've been doing it as I've been going along. So please don't.
It's hot off the press, so
don't worry about the artistic sort of design of these things. This slide. Yeah, I'm doing that
green
now.
button.
I'm doing that now. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Full screen. Full screen.
Well, I'll try that. I'll try the full screen.
Yeah, there it is. That's it.
Is that it? Yeah. Got that? Okay. So just to summarize what we've heard this afternoon. And apologies if I don't mention all the presentations, but I try to link what I am going to say with as many of them as possible. And also, excuse me for writing some names like Ricard, because I know Ricard well, and he wasn't presenting a particular project, but the work that he's been doing. So I start there. What I think is let's say a thread between all this is links between different things, you know, and they are missions, disciplines, regions, institutions, and policies. So I'll say a few words about each one. The first one, links between missions. I mean, it was mentioned by Arno at the beginning, and I had a virtual clap of the hands, because this is something that we you know, many people who study higher education institutions in their region say this, but it's not always done in practice, and that is linking the missions. You know, and I see this at a policy level as well, that you have people responsible for research and education policy also in the institutions, and that they don't, you know, they say, well, I know nothing about research, and the research people say, I know nothing about education. Clearly, if institutions are going to have an impact in their regions, they have to link all the different things that they're doing. That's what Arno said. He doesn't like the word third mission. I agree with him. And we see, you know, the links between education and research, they're reinforcing. And we see there are many examples of that. And Ricard especially gave us examples in the different things that he'd studied, whether it's the Knowledge Alliances or the European University Alliances, and the other case studies that I know he's been involved with the JRC. Just an example of that is a phrase that's used for students having knowledge transfer on legs. You know, it's not just about the research and innovation that they may do. Sorry, that the universities may do. The staff, let's say, do the research and innovation as well as education, but they educate students who will go on to do research and innovation, we hope, not just in the universities, because actually it's a small amount of people who end up doing a PhD and go on being an academic, but in their jobs. So being able to use the new technologies, so that's where it comes to absorption of knowledge. And you know, if you get the research and innovation links right to education, they will have the analytical capacities to be able to research and innovate better in their professional lives. So that's the way it goes from research to education, but of course it goes the other way around too. That education reinforces research. staying with engagement, regional engagement overall. I mean, it should be put into the core missions, and we've seen examples of sort of win-win situations where researchers have worked, for example, with local authorities on, I don't know, traffic organization, town planning, and have been able to use that data for research articles, which has been helped their research. So it's looking for ways of strengthening both missions together. So that's the first one. It's linking missions. Second one is disciplines. Oh, sorry, I was going to mention Östersund there just at the end, because I thought that was a great example of how a university in a region like Östersund cannot afford to split the missions up. It can't. It really has to link them together in order to be able to sort of stay relevant for the region, and it's done that, which I thought was a fascinating example of the remote working centre that has benefit from all the different activities that the university does, and it has a bit like going back to the scheme that Arno presented at the beginning, in terms of how much of an intensity higher education institution has in its region, is to go beyond what would be just contractual relationships with businesses, or transferring specific technologies as a one-off, but to have a developmental role. And I think that was quite clear in the presentation from Karen. So the second one then on disciplines, we know that innovation happens at the intersection of sectors. That's what we've learned from innovation, studying innovation, but that means that we have to do that in the academic disciplines. And that's, again, not easy, because people are in their academic disciplines, in their same conferences, same publications, and that's how they build their careers, to be known by their peers in the same discipline. And there's less for that, there's less, let's say, opportunities to make a name for yourself for interdisciplinary research, and yet we know that is really important, especially when it comes to applied research. And so the Accelerate HEI was a example we saw of people trying to do that, breaking down the silos between the faculties. So yeah, that's what we have to try and do as well in our universities, to link the disciplines. Then the regions, the big problem we have with regional innovation strategies, as we all know, is that they are not well connected between each other. Now, who is going to connect them? I think obviously policymakers have a job to do there, to reach out to their fellow policymakers, and there's lots of great Interreg projects led by regional authorities, but universities do as well. Universities have a role because they're internationally connected through knowledge naturally, and they can do that. And that is where the EU level, I think, comes in. I think because the EU level is about linking different parts of Europe, EU funding, and we have the examples from other policy areas, and the European University Alliances has been mentioned many times this afternoon. That I call the alliances the Interreg of higher education, and this is something. It's not a surprise, therefore, that we've been mentioning that a lot in today's session. They have a potentially very important role. And by the way, if you're going to the European Week of Regions and Cities week after next, week after next, it's true, time's going quickly. There you can also come to a side event that UIRASHE has on the regional impact of the European University Alliances, where we're having a speaker both from the higher education unit in the Commission and the DG Regio, because there we often talk about synergies between research and the structural funds, Horizon structural funds, or not, as the case may be. But I think we need to also talk more to the Erasmus Plus program, because that really, although it's education, there's research element and innovation element to those alliances, and they could be really sort of structurally important, because they're not just one-off projects. They're big, important long-term initiatives to link regional innovation systems. The fourth one is institutions. So trying to link different types of higher education institutions. I think that is something that it's often a bit of a competition between higher education institutions, competition for funds, competitions about who's the best in your region or your country, or the rankings and all the rest of it. But in fact, we often duplicate what we do in the region between different universities. They can, and I put this down especially because I think the Alsace example and the Alsace example, and also the common IT infrastructure example as well, which was bringing the institutions together about common services. Then, you know, when it comes to more theoretical research, more practice orientated research, they can work well together, as well as, of course, other institutions. And that's why I put Alsace down, sorry, there, for the ecosystem, because the Alsace really was an ecosystem actor, connector that we don't really have in all regions, that I thought was great, especially going to the into the universities, because university professors aren't particularly bold, let's say, to get out of their labs and so on. So that's institutions. And finally, my final point would be on linking policies. Now, I think there's a big elephant in the room at the moment in policy, which I don't think Maria is still with us, but I would be saying this anyway to her openly into her colleagues in the action that we have, that she mentioned in the European Research Area Forum on higher education institutions and links between education research, and that is, we know that smart specialization has its weaknesses. We also know that higher education institutions play a very important role in smart specialization, a big beneficiary of the structural funds. We know it has its weaknesses, and the main weakness, which was pointed out by the Court of Auditors last week when in its review, is that it doesn't, smart specialization priorities at regional level are not coordinated at EU level, and are not contributing to EU priorities. Okay. So that's fair enough, but what I would say is, how are we going to make that happen? Okay, and who is going to do it? Interreg could help, could do more perhaps, but the big program out there that could do that is the Horizon Europe program, and it's failed to do it. It's just paid lip service to smart specialization, and that if we are trying to link European priorities with regional priorities, then really it should be these centrally managed programs that do more, and therefore we have to look at that in the context of the European Research Area that is now becoming more important, and with the ERA Act. And I think this is where smart specialization comes back, because in fact, smart specialization was was dreamt up in the context of when the European Research Area was first created back in 2008, 2009. It was in Maria's slide, but in fact, smart specialization was created in that context in the European Research Area. It was then taken as an instrument for the European structural funds. That needs to be brought back in now. And in fact, Robert Dijkschrift at the European Research and Innovation Days SATT said that. He's an ex-minister, if you don't know, from the Netherlands, and he said in the debate about the European research area, we need smart specialization of regions. And so, if that's the case, how are we going to do it? How are we going to, let's say, orchestrate the different value chains at European level based on the smart specialization strategies? And I don't think we have a clear strategy to do that. And I'll finish there because it's about linking policies, and it's all about links. And that's my summary, Mark. I hope that's been useful.
Very nice way to finish the links. And I think Richard Tufts, who is the one of the leaders behind Friends of Smart Specialization, would find your final comments very appreciative. I could react on all those points, but I'm going to be a polite boy. Rimante, you've been coming from your message. A number of people have referred to your CEO, Arno, and the links. I think even John in his summing up talked about the context. Some first reactions to not only what John said, but the speakers and overall. Share your thoughts.
Yeah, so I was writing down some chains of words. Let's see if that makes any sense, but I think it kind of corresponds to a lot of things. So one thing I wrote down was sustainability. So I think it's relevant for any initiative and like for policymakers who are drafting the calls, and it's not only kind of ask for it, but also remove barriers to design for sustainability. I don't know if you know, in circular economy, like the highest level of like circularity is when you have circularity embedded in design. So I think that approach can translate into kind of
sustainability by design.
Exactly. So another one is also like for policymakers, and that really relates to the last point of John Edwards, but also it's relevant to anyone who's working on the ground. It's kind of co-creation, co-design, place-based, context-sensitive approaches are key for success, and to move away from project logic to kind of system logic. And again, like linking back all the things that John mentioned. Yeah, and then also the first question you gave me, Marc, about like whom to look for at the university. So I think, yeah, just like keep looking for those entry points, but for universities is really like show the right door and for different stakeholders and highlight those doors. And I don't know, like in your kind of like strategic missions, but also like the way you kind of show up in the world and in your regions and in your communities.
I think just in the last two examples there, in Karine with their community, brokers, and Antoine, his structure, Conectus, the SATT, I mean, they are visible sort of actors now in the ecosystem, and it takes time for them to be established, but they do tend to be sort of the beacon that can attract.
Exactly, but like often, a lot of people are doing a lot of great things, but they don't really tell their stories. So I think they need to be supported, and that's important.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for that. One point I would also add to almost to complement what John was saying. He mentioned the European Court of Auditors report was published last week. One of the positive conclusions, and Nico Sanger, who started off today's session, retweeted and linked and posted whatever he did. One of the conclusions about this, the next steps and challenges for ESRI, was more interregional collaboration. And John Edwards said there are different people who can play that role in connection. Smart specialization is about the value chains that connect the companies to the research institutes, to the universities, to the public policy that it may be investing in some new fields. So, but we don't want to all create the same thing. So this interregional connections works for regions in creating their own research infrastructure or supporting those, and universities can also be a driver of interregional. Equally, I think the notion of innovation is cross-sectorial. The disruptive technologies. We put AI into food, into health, into space, whatever. The quantum technologies. So I think there is a role for people preparing the strategies to think cross-sectorially. So I think that I certainly found some resonance in John's, and it's always a challenge to sort of pick up the different themes. I think you did that very well with that one slide. I think that the speakers gave us a lot of food for thought. I want to make sure we share some of the results of the Slido. Valentine, can you show us what some of the people have been putting on here? We'll capture it and put it in a little note that you can receive afterwards. But what were people wanting to share with us? So we've got some social orientation students, Finland, life and work balance, university employees, that's good. Share a good example with the Atlantic Technological University in Sligo Island. Access points to industry to work with academics. The university, Unbreakable Ukraine, a nice one. Okay, change, strong engagement with the university, S3, EDP process. I think that's good. And another idea, funding schemes support mainstream and scale up concrete structured guidance. That's what Rimante was just saying about sustainability by design and not just project funding. The notion of better innovation governance, I think that's part of the framework conditions. And I think we just had in the last session some good examples of these knowledge office boundary spanners taking a different view. So, okay, well, we can capture some of those, and appreciate you took the time to respond. Thank you, Valentine. Other ones anymore? No. Okay. Just as a means of wrapping up, my colleague Arnault Morisson, who gave us some insights to some of the policy briefs that we've produced. I just want to give him a quick, opportunity to say, are we going to revise these policy briefs? What have we learned today, and what can we share further? Because at the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform, yes, we connect, and this is the idea of Interreg Europe meets UIIN, but also we want to capitalize, as you've just said, Rimante, we don't want to just say, oh, this is a nice workshop, classify it. What can we take forward? So Arnaud, if you're still with us, we've got some messages.
Thanks, Marc. Yeah, just one very quick point, because we've been learning a lot from all of our speakers. And if we had to revise the policy briefs, it's really to highlight the importance of connection, having the right entry point. That was mentioned a lot. The role of entry points, gatekeepers, brokers of knowledge. And I would say maybe university could start thinking more about having this type of innovation office, knowledge office, being like this entry point to diffuse the knowledge about all the things that we see, because sometimes you need the right critical mass to diffuse knowledge from all the initiatives that we have in Europe. So connection, I would say, Marc, is the big highlight that I will add when revising policy briefs.
Good, that's Alja. I would like to give a final one-word statement to all our kind speakers who've stayed with us. So I'll just run across the screen, and you are first in my list, Karine, because Rimante's already said something. So Karine, what was your one takeaway from this afternoon?
Actually, I've learned a lot, thanks. The linkages is something I take with me. How important that is something.
Okay, thank you. Antoine, you're next on my screen.
Well, again, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming and listening. What would be really interesting, you'll probably have my contact information from the presentation and through Marc. If you have any feedback about how you proceed in your TTOs, in your locations, we also would be absolutely thrilled to hear it, because we feel that all of those initiatives are always work in progress. And if a good practice can inspire another one and then itself get inspired, I think that would be a double win.
It's a constant loop of improvement that we all see.
Indeed, it's very necessary. I mean, especially consider that, I'm the one who wrote more deep tech. I really think that deep tech is absolutely necessary to Europe. It's something that Mario Draghi emphasizes as well. And if we don't have all the money we want, we should at least have all the brain power we can to make it more efficient.
Okay. Ricard, what's your takeaway? We were looking at some of the best research in digital in Finland together. So I think the digital message we've had, but what was your take from this afternoon?
So every time that we discuss universities and regional innovation, there's always like, we see that every year there are new advances and many new learning outcomes and many things are happening. But still, I mean, like in every presentation, we learn about some of these, but we also saw that there are still challenges. And well, that's part of what I said before. No, this is where Interreg can play a role, because these challenges are quite similar and they are shared. Therefore, finding joint solutions, it's something interesting and efficient.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think you're well placed from the university and being strongly engaged in interregional cooperation. I think your insights are very valuable. Stefania, you're from a national level body APRE. What's your key takeaway from this afternoon?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you again for the invitation and for your attention during this workshop. And I would say the importance to build synergies, not only between universities, but with regional and the local systems, and to make universities to open up to the ecosystems that are around. Yeah, I would say this.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, you've heard me talk enough today, so I'm not going to say anything more. I would just like to give you one further little bit of information. Valentine will stop the recording at the end, and then that will be shared with you. So those who have trouble sleeping, you can listen to again and again and listen to it for yourself. But more seriously, we will try and capture the main messages in a follow-up piece on our website, and we will obviously share it through the UIIN. So my final word is merci, dankeschön, thank you, everyone joining. And Rimante, your final message. I'd just like to say thank you for reaching out. I know we've had some cooperation activities, and I think this has really taken it onto a next level. So appreciate your cooperation and great insights and help prepare this. But you can have the final word.
Yeah, I was, if it's just one word, I wanted to say, okay, it's not a one word, but it's all about people. So yeah. And thank you, Marc, for co-organizing together.
My pleasure. So there's a little survey. Valentine will give you a little QR code that you can complete. So thank you very much, everybody. Thanks also to John Edwards for taking on board the little challenge, and look forward to seeing you for another coffee, croissant, and some other little event. And also special thanks to Richard Tufts, who was very active on our chat. Appreciate, and all of you who joined on the Slido. It's always useful to get some interesting insight. So thanks again. Valentine, you can share the survey or whatever, and we can shut down.